Okay. I think I'm live now. No camera today. Because my camera's acting weird. Let me just test and see if everything is working. I was gonna have a big old bombastic entrance, but most people don't show up right on time, so I'll just give them a few minutes to do their thing while I, you know, make sure the shit's up and running. All right, let's see. Let's see. Can I hear me? I was gonna have a big old bombastic entrance. Okay, great. I can hear me. That's pretty good. All right, so you know what time it is. Hello, everyone. This is gonna be the first one that I make, for lack of better words, a deluxe edit for, where at some point after, if you can't stick around for the whole thing or you can't make it, etc., maybe I'll edit this down, and that would be cool because under most circumstances, I actually quite dislike when people show stream highlights, but I think my content is strong content. What a horrible word. Um, I think my general disposition and delivery is strong enough to where I feel pretty good about, just uploading a clip of myself raw, and that will probably be pretty funny. So you may notice a little bit of redundancy or me pausing to say something twice, probably because I'm just gonna have to say it twice. Let me open the chat. There we go. Okay. Better thumbs up that stream, by the way. Let me start from scratch. So I got to think of an introduction. We're gonna do that, and probably silence my phone too. This is a little harder because I don't have my camera on this time, so I can't really rely on my funny facial reactions and just me talking. If I had actually prepared, that would have made things quite a bit easier on myself. But you know what they say: late birds get fucking wrecked, I guess. Um, and I'll explain more of this in a few minutes. I'll give people 3 or 4 more minutes to hop on in. So we're gonna tier all of the Black Shonen Jump characters. Here they are, in all their glory. Um, I thought going in it was gonna be all bad. It's actually not. There are actually a lot of pretty good contenders here, more than I thought. Although an interesting thing when I began, compiling the list, which took probably like 2 hours ish of just going through, all the jump stuff that I've read, is it all seems to be concentrated in just a handful of areas. So the situation is not going to be as dire as you think. It's not going to be all Mr. Popos and stuff. There's going to be some pretty good stuff going on. You can probably already see some of them. And some of them you may be going, oh, I didn't know that guy was black. And the answer to that is, well, they're probably not. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's give people a little bit more time to dip in. And meanwhile, I'll announce to the world that I am now doing it. So I'll give them a few more minutes to hop on in. Meanwhile, how's everybody else been doing? Is it just me? It's probably just me. That's okay. I hope you're all doing pretty well. As for me, I've been chilling. I am wrapping up editing on the yellow video, and in case you were sort of wondering, like, why do I go such big, long amount of time without doing anything, it is partially because, when I'm not editing a video, when I go to stream, my brain tells me, no, you should be editing right now, and then I'll get stressed out and do neither. So the only times I tend to stream are basically little congratulations and thank yous to myself for being such a good fella and actually, editing videos. The yellow video, after I think going through 6 different edits of a video, no, 7 edits. No. 9 edits of a video that was already well over an hour long. That is why it took a long time, because I kept watching other people's videos and saying, ooh, it's not as good as that one. Ooh, they made some really good points I didn't make. Ooh, let me just toss the whole thing out because that other person did it better. Actually, none of that shit matters. I just listened to my own words one day and said, damn, this dude is fucking cooking. It's not as visually spicy as I'd like, but this motherfucker is making some really good points right here. And I guess it is a little bit of a narcissist thing, but you do have to be a little bit of a narcissist to be on YouTube. You gotta love the sound of your own voice, or you're gonna have a horrible time. And let me tell you, boy, do I fucking love the sound of my own voice. Okay, let me actually tell people I'm here. Okay, boys, it's time. Get in or get racist, I guess. Or having a job or other responsibilities. Stuff to do and catching up with the VOD later. But get in, though. Okay, there we go. I've told the kids on Blue Sky. Now let's tell the kids on Twitter. Actually use Blue Sky. Do you people use Blue Sky? Some of y'all get on Blue Sky. BLUSKY. My socials are the same as everything else. Just Manga Dungeon. Okay, it's here. It's happening. Okay, so let's wait like 3 more minutes. I'm not like waiting and then like, oh, fucking nobody's here. It's not like that. I just want to give people a chance to, get in, do their thing. I think my banter left to my own devices, it's pretty good. And we'll start for real, and I'll start, saying some shit that sounds sort of scripted-ish. In hindsight, maybe I should have, added my own camera. Oh well. But I also don't really know how Streamlabs works very well yet. You would think that by now I'd know, but nope, I'm used to using OBS, and I last second had to swap over to Streamlabs, so there we go. Alright, where are we right now? We're at a couple of minutes. Okay, we'll give him like we'll give him till 2:10 PST to prove that they are not racist. In the meanwhile, I hope everyone having a really good MLK day. Oh shit, you know what? I don't want to do this guy last. This is a guy I actually didn't care much for. A lot of them, as you probably notice, are kind of clumped. A little clumped together. There we go. So we're gonna break up the big clusters of one series to address the one-offs. Okay, we'll give it a few more moments. Meanwhile, I like the stream, I guess. Okay, any second now, and we'll begin going. The countdown is real. You thought I was already counting down on social media. Well, now you're here and you're seeing the countdown live. So I hope you enjoy that. And I'll begin explaining stuff so I don't have to do it again. Where I'll be starting it in earnest. Okay, they've had enough time. 2:09. No, it's 2:10 now. Well, we started at 2:09. Black excellence. Let me just bring this shit up. Actually, how do I get back to where I was streaming? You know what? That's okay. I'll just use my own situation over here. Okay. I think about here should be where you can see stuff correctly, right? Sorry, I'm just trying to fiddle with Streamlabs, because I don't really know how to use Streamlabs that well. Oops, sorry. Come on, do your thing. Okay, perfect. This is perfect. Alright. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the special MLK Day stream. I've had a very long 2023 of politics pretty much all day, every day, and a very interesting end of my year last year for also politics, as I'm sure we all had, which is really funny because a lot of my actual work in my real life tends to be political in nature. So I figured what MLK would have wanted was for me to basically shitpost on MLK Day. He had the dream, and I had the funny idea on the way home from work, where you know that meme where MLK is like whipping the white guys, or a black guy is whipping the white guys with MLK looking on approvingly. I imagined, well, if that was Mr. Popo, and I said to myself, you know what? I mean, not Mr. Popo. I imagined to myself, what if that was Piccolo looking down? And I thought that was really funny. So here we are. So I figured, okay, this will be a pretty funny stream to basically entertain myself and give myself some fun to do, and also reward myself because I actually am 95% done with that yellow video. Holy shit, we did it. All I gotta do is make the goddamn thumbnail. So we have a cavalcade of not just anime black people that we're ranking today, but very specifically ones from Shonen Jump. Because if we went down all of the black people in general, we could be here all day. Most people will probably identify, some of the bangers, like we got, Piccolo, Mirko, and Bleach, which I have not read, so you're actually not going to read that much of Bleach, or you're not going to hear that much out of me from Bleach. But this is basically a big shit post, and it's not going to be as bad as you thought. So the ground rules are basically, these are mostly characters that I'm either having a passing familiarity with, or I know what their thing is, basically, right? These are mostly characters that I can sort of remember. There are almost certainly going to be some that I don't. You may be looking at the list, and maybe in the premium version, which I'm going to edit together later, or maybe I shouldn't call it that because someone else does that, and that is who I'm taking the idea from. But the deluxe version that I'll probably edit together later, you'll probably be able to play at home, because you'll be able to look at this exact tier list and do it yourself and post online. Tell me what you think. That'll be really fun. Maybe not if you're not black, I guess. A lot of this is contingent upon you actually being black. So let's get to the list here. So at the bottom are characters that I'm pretty sure are not black. And I don't think they're black coded either. It's possible, but these are characters that are still basically held in pretty high regards, right? Because a lot of the time you see a brown person in the anime, and you go, oh, that's a black person. When, I think there's a strong argument to say that they are probably not, right? This is not to discount, like, all brown characters as, like, definitely not black. Like, for example, Poochie from JoJo. I think there is an argument for him maybe not being black, but it's not strong enough to where I'd say, yeah, I would put stock on that. So Oob, who's, like, very much I feel to be a South Asian coded character, is a good example of that. And then there's Candace's Elites. I was going to call this one a credit to the race, or another word that starts with C, that I can't say on stream. It is a synonym for a black person who generally holds political beliefs that are generally not great for black people. You know the word that I cannot say. On YouTube, I mean. I'll say it in real life. And if you're not black, maybe you shouldn't say it either. Starts with a C, O, you know what I mean. These are the ones that just actively make us as a group look worse and make the artist in question just look really, really bad and make me ask questions about their character. Now, maybe the individual character in question, like their actions might be pretty solid, or they don't necessarily do anything that is especially bigoted. But you know, their design is just horrible. You know, this is like some real Jinx tier stuff. Like some real, if you told me to cosplay this character, I would take great offense to that. And might even be pretty hurt. In fact, some of these characters are actually exactly that. Big reason why I even got into cosplay. So that's Candace's elites. LinkedIn mutuals. That one's going to require a little bit of explanation. So sometimes, you know, just as being black people, you have to quietly link up together. And LinkedIn is the most apolitical, safe place to do that, for lack of better words. Where we might even have political viewpoints about, let's say, nonviolent resistance or grassroots, you know, grassroots struggles, etc., that are mutually opposed to each other, but we generally have each other's tacit support in the most abstract, just on grounds of being black, right? Like, we can both agree that, like, racism is bad, but you may have some questionable takes on affirmative action or representation in media. Like, that kind of thing, where we probably aren't going to get along, we'd probably quite dislike each other in real life, but when it comes to certain social networks, like LinkedIn, which is the most non-political, I don't give a fuck about your ideology whatsoever, that is probably the one that I'm going to tolerate you on. So that tier is for characters that I don't like. They're not great, but I don't think they're the absolute worst, right? Like, I don't feel like that's a blackface, but the situation is not great. There's brief eye contact. I feel like a lot of these characters are going to hover between LinkedIn Mutual and brief eye contact. Brief eye contact is when you walk into the room and you may not know each other, but you do briefly acknowledge that you're both black people, basically, and go, yeah, I can agree with that. If anything crazy goes down, if anything nuts happens, like someone says the N-word and makes a really racist joke, we've acknowledged each other's presence, you know, so we're not both mutually alone in the struggle. Then there's the higher tier. They are not cooking. They are at the cookout. They aren't invited to it. They are just already there. This is for ones that are pretty good, but just not perfect. Like a common one I would put here is maybe the actual character is really, really good, but their design is questionable, or their design is really, really good, and their character itself is sort of questionable. And then there's the dream, per Martin Luther. Yeah, it's what he dreamed of. That's a top tier representation. That's sort of what I want. Not always necessarily an exemplary character, but, you know, I have no issues with that. That's a pretty good example of what I'd want for black characters in media. So you can already sort of tell that for this one, I am curving the grade. I'm curving the grade, where I think what would get you, like, a C in a lot of other media things that are, like, made by Western folks, would probably get you, like, really high here, mostly on terms of, well, the bar is kind of low. We're dealing with, like look at who we got up first. The characters themselves, I've noticed a few observations when going in, and it's that a lot of these characters are sort of clustered into a handful of series. I went down the Shonen Jump, like all of the Jump titles, and I didn't, you know, obviously I haven't read all of them, and I am biased as sort of, for lack of better words, boomer takes, where I'm mostly looking at series that I know, because a lot of these characters are kind of blink and you miss it, or you would totally forget about this character if, you know, left to your own devices. So it is kind of biased in that regard, and that's why there aren't that many Bleach characters on here. There are probably going to be more, and if you do know more, you should probably post them, because I'm going to release this tier list to the public later, once I remove some, you know, some oddballs. But there we go. I tried to put them in order by series and also when they appear in their respective series. Some of them are a little out of order, and some of these are a little bit more abstract or conceptual that we'll get to in a bit. So it's been 20 minutes, so let's start with a bang. Staff Officer Black. This is it. This is what we wanted. Staff Officer Black is definitely he's one of Candace's elites. He's easily one of Candace's elites. Oh god, did my computer freeze at the worst possible time? There we go. Okay. Um So I don't think in the story Staff Officer Black does anything especially racist. I mean, he does have a gun, but like, a lot of the Red Ribbon guys have guns, but like fucking look at him. Oh my god. Oh my god. Look at this. This is horrible. Oh man. Oh, but I'm sure it's nowhere to go but up, right? Well, we won't be going that much down. Oh, also fun fact about Staff Officer Black. So most of the Red Ribbon characters have the word like Colonel or something like that in there. Um, Staff Officer Black in Japanese, I guess the term Staff Officer can be understood as Sanbo, uh, which if you couldn't have guessed, comes from Sanbo. The black thing with the big lips, which is where a lot of we're gonna see a lot of that today. So thumbs up if you want to see more of that, and also thumbs up the video if you don't want to see that. In fact, did you know that you'll see the thumbs up in real time? It's actually true. So make sure you do that, and if you're not subscribed, also do that. So he's not great. He's Colonel Red's second in command, and tries to I believe betray him by shooting him. His later appearance in Dragon Ball Path to Power is a little better, but they do a oopsie-doo and make him not black. Let me actually pull up a picture. Staff Officer... Oh god, is my computer gonna freeze? Staff Officer Black movie? This is going to be one where I am going to have some more visual aids for you, so that'll be fun. So here is Staff Officer Black, in the Path to Power film. You can see him there. You can see. It's not great. It's not great. But he does look a little bit better. There he is. You can see him. He looks like maybe Hispanic now, I guess, which is a little bit of a step up, but I think it would have been cooler if he was still black, I guess, but just not, this, I suppose. So that will be good. Okay, so we got we got the worst of the worst, except for not really. Now there's Piccolo. Piccolo's, I'm sorry, not Piccolo. They both have P words in there. Yeah, now we have Mr. Popo, who's definitely like the poster child of Candace's elites. What the fuck do I even say to this, right? So I always thought it was cute, I guess, that in the Japanese version, Mr. Popo has a little bit of a quirky, for lack of better words, unga bunga accent, I suppose. And in an attempt to make it less racist without spending any money on it, they just made Mr. Popo this very eloquent and gently spoken character. And to be perfectly honest with you, I've actually always thought that to be quite interesting. I don't want to say good, because this is double offensive. Some people, will argue that Mr. Popo should go in not black and should not be invited to the cookout, but because, there's very clearly some weird stuff with Arab folks going on here too, and there are going to be, a lot of characters that are probably a little closer to Arab that go in this category as well. But I think Mr. Popo is kind of the poster child for bad representation in anime and being a little bit tone deaf. So he can go there. His actual character, what he does, he's not a horrible guy. And whenever you bring up Mr. Popo being bad, some I don't want to call them chuds, but they are kind of chud lights, kind of idiots who maybe aren't, super duper ultra racist, may try to defend Mr. Popo by saying, oh, he was funny in Dragon Ball Z Abridged. And that's true. He was very funny in Dragon Ball Z Abridged. But, like, look at this. Also, they make, like, weird Jinx jokes, so I'm still a little mad about that. So he's definitely the lowest of the low, I think. So now we have some, and for greater context, I made a video that was more edited, similar to this, way back when I first started this channel. And one of the takes that I now somewhat disagree with was the idea that the Namekians are not black, because they're green. We can get into technicalities all day, and you know what, I think if we as a society, agree that Mr. Popo is black and, not more Arab leaning, based on his dress, then we can also probably agree that, the Namekians are also black. Like, there's a long legacy of black characters being coded as, like, blue or green guys or whatever have you in science fiction, and Mr. Pope, they both have P, I'm sorry. Piccolo kind of does, have a lot of elements of very traditional black masculinity, up to and including maybe having a more complicated politics around his place in the world than we are initially expected to believe. So, Mr. Popo is pretty good. A lot of people quite like Mr. Popo, or why do I keep saying that? Piccolo. Piccolo. Do I have to say that whole fucking thing again? Let's start at the top. Okay. So one of my initial takes was that, when I made a video like this, but worse, years ago, one of my takes that I now disagree with is that Piccolo isn't black, because he's green. However, if we stay on that logic, then we have to say things like Garnet isn't black from Steven Universe, and Garnet is very black, and she's like red, or purple, or something like that, right? And, sometimes it's not necessarily up to the writer to decide how the consumer is going to experience a given piece of media, right? Like, it's a little bit of death of the author. Like, I'm sure Akira Toriyama did not necessarily consider Piccolo to be a black person when writing, but, he does just kind of take on a lot of the incidental elements of black masculinity, and a lot of elements of, the father who, contrary to popular belief, was there and does care about his son, but sometimes still does have some somewhat, what's what I'm looking for? Well-meaning, but still somewhat conservative takes when it comes to discipline and manning up and yada yada yada. So, do I want to put Piccolo in The Dream or at the Cookout? Because I think The Dream is, like, for an actual black person, right? Where that's the intent? You know what? It's a holiday. I want to have a nice day. We're going to put Piccolo in The Dream. This is meant to be a shitpost stream, by the way. So, if you feel like you want to chime in despite not being black, that's perfectly fine. This is a shitpost stream. It's going to get even funnier next time when I post the most racist characters in Shonen Jump, which I'm going to do in February for Black History Month. That will be happening. Next up is Kami. Kami is basically very similar to Piccolo, where I see him as basically a community elder that has a lot of wise ideas, but also has to reconcile that, you've said and done some things that were not great. In Kami's case, it's being a bad god. Shout out to the Dragon Ball fans that are very insistent on just calling him God without flinching and not calling him Kami. I love you. I love all of you. You are great and very powerful. Just calling him God without flinching, like that's just his name. I actually quite like Kami as a character. I kind of wish there was more of him on screen in early Dragon Ball. He's pretty good. Um, he serves as sort of a wise mentor to Goku and company, and kind of proves that God is not necessarily all powerful in the Dragon universe. And I kind of like the idea that there are guys that are just you just get so strong that you can fucking outmuscle God. So that's pretty good. Kami is pretty good. I think he doesn't necessarily go above and beyond the way I think Piccolo does. And he does make a lot of foolish mistakes to where Kami is at the cookout. I'm going to go to Kami one day and he's going to go, "Remember me?" And I'm going to go, "No." And he's going to be very insistent that we catch up. And I'm going to go, "Dog, I'm like 30. We have not spoken since I was literally 7." And he's going to be drunk at 3 p.m. playing dominoes. That joke was for black people, but you can laugh too if you're not black. Then there are the Namekians more conceptually. There are a handful of groups here that I'm kind of putting out here more conceptually. Where there are definitely more, characters of this variety in the series, but I just don't have that much to say on them. So this is kind of a grouping together of like Nail, Dende, Guru, all those, fellas. They're okay, I guess. I don't think they're super great representation, and I never really liked the idea of like super peaceful meditation guys, right? That are mostly minding their own business, but are also cool martial arts masters that also get kind of bodied. I like them as characters, but I don't necessarily think I like them as like black representation. So I think I'm going to put them. I think they're tolerable. Yeah, I think I'm going to put them in LinkedIn mutuals just conceptually. Like, I don't think all Namekians are black, but I can definitely see the argument there, because some of these characters are only here under consideration because of partial like bloodline reasons. I'm sure if you can look closely, you might even be able to see some of them already who are kind of here just based on bloodline associations. Okay. Next up is the Saiyan race. I used the Toei version of the Saiyans as a point of reference because I didn't want to necessarily use Goku. Okay, so let's so let's break this one down a little bit, right? So the Saiyans are not necessarily black, but a lot of people will argue that they're black coated. They are commonly referred to as monkeys, seen, and sometimes are just bigger than their peers. Not like first they're literal monkey people that are being kept in line by an incredibly racist white man. Well, do I really feel like calling Frieza a man? I think I think Frieza is probably like firmly non-binary, right? It doesn't matter. Like a more somewhat masculine, although a little femme presenting figure, Frieza. They're kept underfoot, prevented from reaching their true potential as Super Saiyan Kings. They were kings, okay? They can constantly talk about, the old days and pride and how we was kings, etc. And I don't think I necessarily believe that. Because with Piccolo, he's a green guy. So I can kind of buy that being like a black coated thing. And I think there are, like, as of like the super timeline stuff, I think there might have been like one darker skin Saiyan. I think like a background guy, if I remember that right. He's like a kind of skinny fella, or maybe I'm totally misremembering that as another character. But I think I don't know. I don't think they're black, but they are invited to the barbecue. They are also invited to talk smack about like, white guys at work. Oh, oh, sorry, my graphics card is dying. You might not have even seen that visual glitch. I'm actually not sure. It's gonna be fun finding out though. Okay, so there's Oob. Oob is, the one I was talking about before, where a lot of people will, kind of consider him black, but I don't know. I think Oob very firmly strikes me as South Asian. Um, that just seems to be what he's coded. Now I do, I do get a feeling that for South Asian people or Arab people in the audience, if you want to put him amongst Candace's elites, I think that might be pretty reasonable as a poor child from poor village. Ooh, we have no water. I'm gonna start playing in the arms of an angel. I don't think that's great. Not that Oob himself is bad. Oob seems like a nice guy. We also don't really see much of Oob either. So there we go. That's my feelings on Oob. Apparently he makes an appearance in Super. That doesn't seem good to me. So Dragon Ball has had a pretty spotty history, and I'm gonna say overall it's not great. Like, we got some high highs, but the lows are literally the lowest that it could possibly get, right? And then Toyotaro takes over and starts working on Super. And I guess once they finished the Tournament of Power stuff, he remembered Mr. Popo existed and said, "Ooh, gee whiz, I don't know about that one, Chief." So then we have Janice, which is Pan's teacher. She appears in Superhero very briefly at the beginning and end, and appears in the manga, but I haven't read that far yet. Maybe I'll do that later today. We'll see. I'm pretty far behind on Super. In fact, a lot of these characters coming up actually don't really have that much to say about them. Janice seems pretty cool. Not every black character has to be like a super exemplar. Like, she only appears very briefly, but she seems pretty nice. Like, a pretty dedicated teacher, has a functional relationship with Piccolo. A lot of people actually ship these two characters, which initially I was against because I just hate it when, like, you just kind of pair up the only two black people. But I actually quite like Janice, and a lot of people drew some very cute fan art of them. So that kind of, Janice pilled me. She has a big afro. That's very cute. So I think she's gonna go in the dream. Not every black character has to be like a super exemplar of great representation that we will tell legends about for all the rest of time. Sometimes you're just a pretty solid piece of representative media. You just see people that look like you, and it's not really a big deal, and they have the same types of hopes and dreams and aspirations just like you. If I ever do like a queer tier list, which I think I should do one day, you'll probably see a lot of characters like that get into like the highest echelons just on virtues of being a pretty cool, interesting character that I kind of want to see more of, but they don't really do that much. Actually, you know what? She doesn't really do anything, though. Like, the dream is the pinnacle, right? Yeah, I think the dream is the pinnacle. So I think actually I might move Janice down to, like, here. But that's still really good. Like, once we hit, like, at the cookout, you're perfect. There's no other... I have no real issue with you, I guess. And then I believe his character's name is, Gas, I think. He is the patron of the Heater family. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I've not read this far into Super. He looks cool though, so do I want to put him at the cookout, or is he in brief eye contact? Because if he walked into the room, we would definitely make eye contact and both acknowledge that we're both black in case if something crazy happens. Or if someone, like, says, "Oh boy, I'm gonna cook a chicken," and they just drop a chicken breast into boiled water, and we both look at each other awkwardly like, you didn't put spice on that. But then again, for Gas, actually, I think Gas is gonna go at the cookout tentatively. Tentatively, um, yeah, he's gonna go. He's gonna go at the cookout. Um, I don't know anything about him. To my understanding, as it's been explained to me, the this particular arc of Super is apparently some of the worst stuff in Dragon Ball. So I don't know if this guy actually sucks. However, I do like that he has big dreadlocks. I like that he's a space pirate. I really, I don't know about, it's not wearing a shirt thing, but um, I like that he looks like a regular ass pirate with big dreadlocks. That's what I want my dread to look like one day. Like like I want the fucking two antenna hanging down with the rest of it in a goddamn pony in a little ponytail. That's what I want. That's my cosplay goals. So he's going at the cookout just on the strength of those dreads. The same is probably going to be true for the Heater family as a whole. They are members of the cookout. They have brought mashed potatoes. Okay, they brought the green beans. They brought the collard greens. They brought the mac and cheese, the good mac and cheese. That's pretty good. Dragon Ball is actually hitting pretty hard right now. Although I think we're still at a net C because a lot of these characters are kind of new. These are not Toriyama creations. Although I'm sure he did write off on them, and they do look like his style. And then there is, I think this character's name is, well, I know the Japanese name is Compass and Chalk. And, Dragon Ball does the Dragon Ball thing, where they try to change the name to make it sound kind of weird and inconsistent with if they want it to be a pun or not of, Compass and Chalk. Compass is, I'm just gonna call her Compass. I thought Compass was a fake. I think she's the bottom of the dream. Wow, my computer's moving extra slow today. She's gonna be the bottom of the dream, okay? And here's why. I could not tell you shit about her, but I do like that we have regular ass Dragon Ball background characters that don't do anything, they don't have powers, but they look very much in Toriyama's art style, yet are also black people. Like, they make sense. I mean, I know Toriyama himself didn't design his character, at least I don't think so. That was almost certainly Toyotaro. But, looks pretty cool. Looks very cute. Really undoes a lot of the damage that Popo, has done, I think. And the same is sort of true of, Chalk, I guess, but to a lesser degree. He's pretty cool. I think it's kind of weird to have an undercut and like an afro on top instead of like a flat cut. But I think it basically makes sense. Like they still look like Dragon Ball characters, which is pretty fun. I like them quite a bit. I think this is the highest you can get without me being able to say anything because again, we're curving the grade right here, right? Like, there are only 5 tiers, and I think the dream, under any other circumstances, would be, like, maybe high B, somewhere else. Speaking of the dream and characters I don't really know that much about, Mirko, the bunny hero, from Hero Academia. I think she's going in the dream, too. I think, if I remember right, someone said that there's some fun Megan Thee Stallion, Easter eggs with Mirko. She does kind of fall into the trope of, somewhat lighter skinned black person with white hair, and I'm never really thrilled about that. But a lot of people seem to quite like her, so she's getting in there along with Piccolo. I like her design. I don't want to admit to just being a fucking coomer, but I've done it on Twitter, so it's okay. A lot of people have done a lot of really good fan art, a lot of really good cosplay, if you know what I mean. Should remind myself to insert that clip of Krillin going wink wink nudge nudge woo. No, but seriously, I do quite like her design. A lot of people seem to like her, so she's pretty good. And I think the writer here Academia just said, no, yeah, like she has a Japanese name, she's black because I just write their names like that. Up to and including this next guy, Kagi. I don't remember his first name. I think it might be Akagi. Like, he's the key hero. He's Jamaican themed. Um, Normally, I think I would put him in like LinkedIn mutuals, but I do like acknowledgement that not all black people are Americans. I think that's a piece of little piece that a lot of people goof up on, right? Um, and while I'm not always as conscious of it myself as I could be, a lot of my buddies, the diaspora, do speak up about that and do have to go, hey, we're not all Americans, but we are all black. So, shout out to Jamaica. Love you guys. Jerk chicken, real good. And then we're okay. So we've had our little break from the big long Dragon Ball characters. We've broken it up with Hero Academia. Now we're on to the JoJo characters. So first up, there's Smokey Brown, from part 2. Huh. What do I have to say about Smokey? So Smokey does have some more stereotypical tendencies. Specifically around being a kind of like, the kind of wimpy guy who's like, let's get out of here, JoJo. And, also, being a thief. But also, within his first appearance, they do straight up acknowledge that, he is a thief, but he's stealing stuff because black people just tend to be poor. That's just what happens. And they're not necessarily evil for doing so. However, who is commonly evil? The police. So JoJo fucking breaks a cop's fucking finger and nose, and I think beats up another guy over Smokey and going, nah, see, you think that kid just stole my wallet, but it was totally a gift, right, dude? Tell him it was a gift. So base JoJo. JoJo has always had a really nuanced understanding of systemic racism, which I really don't expect from Shonen Jump series. Not just because this is mostly media, especially the age of stuff that I'm most familiar with, that is, mostly made for Japanese people, so I'm not exactly expecting, like, the most well-rounded representation in the world, but JoJo is pretty good about, exhibiting a pretty nuanced understanding of the black experience, and I'm guessing for a lot of these series, the reason why they're like that is because they're just taking so much influence from other sources of media that are not just other anime and manga and like light novels and stuff. And are taking influence from famous movies and TV shows and things that are not necessarily made in Japan. And because America tends to be like one of the biggest exporters of media, and black people and black culture are one of the biggest influences on American media, it makes sense that if you have a show or series or whatever have you that is taking heavy notes from American media, if you're paying close enough attention, you probably will have a lot of sympathetic views towards black people. Not all the time, you definitely can stumble because, if you only watch Marvel movies or whatever, you're probably pretty likely to think that, all black people either have undercuts, big dreadlocks, and go, now that's what I'm talking about. Or something like that, right? But the point is, Araki's a pretty solid guy, and I think Smokey is not ideal. There's some kind of interesting stuff with him, just kind of being like the lone black guy. So we will put him in brief eye contact. We both acknowledge each other in the room. No problem. Then I have this one that you can't really see very well when I, make this publicly available. I think I might actually remove this one. This one is sort of a stand-in for all of Dio's minions, right? So all of Dio's minions, like Dio's goons, if I had to put a label on them, are not necessarily black. A lot of them are ethnically Egyptian and from, the Middle East and parts of parts of West Asia. Um, so I feel pretty reasonable about putting them in, like, not necessarily black, but invited into the cookout. There is sometimes some and we'll get to this with Abdal, who's right up next. Where a lot of this stuff I know you as like watchers probably already can suss out, but there can sometimes be some interesting back and forth with characters who are who can be coded. Let me try that again. So for a lot of you already listening, I'm guessing you're already pretty woke if you've seen any of my videos before and didn't instantly take off. So you are probably already aware that sometimes, there can be, because of the nature of how cartoons work, a little bit of back and forth between, is this character black or are they just brown? And I do want to be conscious of that. And one of the areas that comes up the most, not just in anime and manga, but in real life, tends to be around people who live north of the Sahara Desert, where if you are black or not can sometimes be a complicated question. And the thing that I tend to fall the most back on is that is mostly up to you to decide. If you choose to identify yourself as closer to Arab or closer to black or both. So usually when it comes to modern day characters, I kind of ask and you'll see a lot of this when we talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, but I ask myself, okay, so what would happen if the police showed up? And for a lot of the JoJo characters, I'm more inclined to say that they would probably be seen and likely consider themselves a little closer to Arab. But commonly when you have Arab folks, and I obviously can't speak for Arab people, right? But commonly when you do see Arab people that do have a little bit more black features, and that part of African descendants is a little bit more prevalent, sometimes they'll lean a little bit more towards identifying with black people because that's more commonly how they're perceived. So that's why Avdol doesn't, fall into the black but invited to the cookout. That said, Avdol is a great character. I know he does fall into a little bit of the magical Negro tropes a little bit. But he does seem to have his own individualized hopes and dreams that don't necessarily align with exactly what the Joestars want him to be doing. He seems like a fun dude to hang out with. While a lot of his role in the story is that of, sort of a magical Negro figure, it is very clear that he is here of his own desire, and that, while it's not always directly spoken of all the time, he does have, like, an honest to God, real friendship with Joseph and all the others. In fact, if you are a big JoJo head like me, because Lord knows I love me some JoJo, in All-Star Battle, I think they might have patched this out, but in some of the dummy files in it, there is some stuff with Part 4 Jotaro, who's not in the game, but, well, he might be in the game now, but, the original PS3 release. There's some stuff with Abdal, and, he does comment and does seem to have some, genuine, his own thoughts and feelings and ideas on stuff, so... Avdol is pretty good. Pretty good representation, I think. I quite like Avdol, one of my favorite JoJo characters. So I think he's in the dream. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that. And then there's Hermes. So a lot of you are probably going to snap and say, oh, Hermes is Mexican, that's true. That is definitely true. Hermes is definitely Mexican. However, what you may not know, this actually I only put her on the list because I wanted to bring this up, is that there are definitely black Mexicans. Like, there are, like, Mexicans that don't speak a lick of English that are as dark and as, black looking as me. They just look exactly like me, but, they're Mexican. that is the result of slavery, where sometimes you'll just have black people in sort of random places. And when you have, a lot of slaves going out in North America and South America, you're going to have a lot of black people. And the reason why Hermes is here is Hermes has her hair in fucking braids, so that makes me think she might be black. I'm a little mixed, maybe Hermes is a mix, who knows? I think, personally, if you disagree, that is perfectly valid. I'm doubtful that Hermes is black. I'm doubtful. I don't want to hear Hermes saying the N-word. Although, if someone disagrees with me, this is not a hill I'm willing to die on. So, if Hermes is black, she's definitely at the cookout. But I'm going to be putting her in not black. But definitely invited to the cookout. There we go. Another one in this... another one interesting... Well, you know what, actually? Let's come back to Hermes. I've just convinced myself in the back of my head. Okay. So, Weather and Poochie. So, this is going to be spoilers for, very late JoJo. So, Weather and Poochie are twin brothers, I believe. Or, are they twins? Actually, I don't know if they're twins. I think they might be twins. Poochie was mostly raised in Sicily, and I think he is a great example of a black villain who does not necessarily have much social commentary on his blackness, but his blackness does inform a lot about his identity, right? And in a very roundabout way, touches down on how, a lot of queer black men reconcile, their own, queerness, I guess, when they're, super Christian. So that's pretty good. I think he's, very devoted to Dio. I do think it's kind of weird that he's, devoted to a white man? Someone call Dr. Umar. Call Dr. Umar. I'm ringing a little bell. You can't see me ring it, but imagine that I am. No, I'm joking. He's pretty good. I quite like Poochie. Poochie is the dream. It's pretty good. Right about here. No, he's also just a great JoJo villain too. All JoJo villains are just fucking weird. Actually, all JoJo characters are just weird. And on another note is his brother, Weather, who you may look at and go, oh, that guy's not black. And that's actually what most JoJo characters think too. But it actually becomes a plot point that he's actually part black, although he is white passing. And something that I do want to give a couple of points to is the idea of, and you're going to see this a lot, there is no one individual way to be black, right? Some of us are extra dark. Some of us got made fun of in school and got hit with you so dark that blah, 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 blah. Some of us do, just have black parents, but just don't really look very, very dark. So, Weather does not know this. I don't believe he knows that he's part black. But after the clan did some digging and found out that he was dating a white woman or something like that, they did notice, and they didn't like it, and he was the target of lynching. So, that's unfortunate, and that sucks. Although, in the anime, they changed this from the clan to just being a random group of white guys, I guess. I don't know how to feel about that. I guess on one hand, it feels like they're trying to blunt the message that racism is alive and well. In fact, I think in the manga, they actually use the words, despite it being 1988 or something like that, racism is still alive and well. So that's pretty good. I think Weather doesn't know it. I think in the most technical terms, I make eye contact with Weather and go, is that guy black? I'm not sure, and then look away. But I think in terms of how we've criteria'd the list, he's at the cookout. Okay, how we doing? Okay, I've got a good section more. So with that said, then there's Hermes. I guess Hermes can be at the cookout too. That's fine. If I'm not sure, then I'll just put it up there. Because something that I found when making some notes of this and googling is a particular character black, is that there's a lot of resistance when you suggest the idea, but there's no space for maybe. Um, and I noticed that quite a bit, right? Like, you've seen me acknowledge that there are characters where I'm really on the fence about this, or I feel one way or another, but I'm really not going to fight you on it. But I noticed for a lot of characters, and Hermes, Poochie, and Weather were three that I saw this come up a lot. And I actually saw a YouTube guy I actually quite like kind of die on this hill. If you are not sure, then the answer is no, as opposed to if you are not sure, then the answer is I'm not sure or maybe. So I'm going to try my best to say if I'm not sure, probably, maybe, but probably. Just in the spirit of, just being pro-inclusive and understanding that there are more than one ways to be black, in the same way that, like, if you happen to be gay, or you happen to be some flavor of queer, or some other flavor of marginalized person, there is no one flavor to do it, right? Like, you don't have to be super flamboyant if you're, like, queer, or you don't have to, be visibly disabled if you're disabled, and you don't have to meet every single criteria of blackness to be black, I guess. So there we go. So these are all characters that I think are maybes, but I'm gonna side with yes. Just in the spirit of not being overtly hostile to an idea. And then there's Pocoloco. So Pocoloco is kind of a funny character. He's a comic relief character in Steel Ball Run, part 7 of JoJo, who's introduced pretty early on. He's one of the few stand users that like, I guess are competing against JoJo and company, or I guess Gyro and JoJo, but isn't really overtly against them, right? Like, I don't even think they talk very much. Pocoloco Stan is Oi Como Vas? No. Damn, what's Pocoloco Stan called? One sec. I'll just look it up. Hold on. We have the technology. Pocoloco stand. Anyway, his stand, it's not clear if it's Heya. His stand is Heya. And it's not entirely clear if, I'll just try again. I'm going to drink some water first, though. Tasty. Okay. So Pocoloco is a Steel Ball Run character, and one of the few that does not seem overtly, wanting to murder JoJo. And probably one of my favorite Steel Ball Run characters, because he appears all throughout the part, and doesn't usually trample on JoJo and Gyro very much, but commonly is a sort of rival character to them who doesn't really show up very often. His stand, it's not really clear if his stand Heya gives him any powers, but it does whisper encouraging words to him. And his backstory is one of my favorites, where his grandfather or his grandfather, I don't remember, is a old man who is a sharecropper. They're both sharecroppers, which is the direct to sequel, which is the direct to DVD sequel to Slavery, where you're not necessarily enslaved, but you're in a position where you're doing the exact same work that a slave does for slave wages, literally. And his grandfather is a man who's just so old, he was like, you know what? I was literally a slave. I know this. Oh God, is my voice gonna give out before the stream's over? He was literally a slave and is old enough to now be a sharecropper, because the Civil War happened and all that good stuff. And he believes, listen, man, this shit sucks for black people in general. I think, and he's like a photorealistic black man, by the way. This sucks. Just play it cool and just, just make sure you don't get fucking whipped or hung or lynched or some shit, right? And Pokoloko is a man from JoJo and not a photorealistic depiction of a black man in like the 1890s. So he's like wearing the super fabulous stuff going on here, spending his time daydreaming, looking at the clouds, and talking to like mysterious fortune tellers and stuff, and just decides, hey, if I win the Steel Ball Run, I'll be able to buy the farm and purchase, me and my grandfather's freedom. It's pretty good motivation. He does, have a little bit of stereotypical stuff going on with like his look, but I think that's it's kind of realistic. Like I too have big lips and a big nose, and pretty broad set individual. That's pretty good. I'm gonna put him up in the dream. And then there is what's her name? The first black JoJo, but she's not the JoJo though. I think it's like Dragonia. Okay, and then there's Dragona Joestar, who does seem to be a mixed race individual and a trans woman. So that's our first trans person today. That's pretty good. Her stand is Smooth Operator, which I'm not gonna lie, I only read the first 2 chapters of the JoJo lands. But given the fact that once again, we see a black person, being harassed and then beating up the police in their first appearance. And also these police are especially violent to like black queer women. It's pretty good. She's in the dream. Trans rights boys. Okay. So we've been having it a little too good for a little too long. There's Chocolate. You may know this character as Joko. Or something like that. I think his new name is Joko. But I will always know him as Chocolate because that was his original manga name. This is a character from Shaman King, where his thing is that he tells funny jokes. He's a ha-ha jokester man. And his spirit companion is a tiger, and he has the big racist lips and the big racist nose and the big kind of buggy eyes. It's not great. And a big afro. Actually, the afro's okay. I don't mind that. In later versions of Shaman King, they remove his big lips, but they keep like his actual mouth like the same size but without the lips. So his mouth always looks a little too small and it doesn't quite look right. His backstory is I think he was in a gang, and the gang are like the most racist depiction of a gang you could possibly imagine. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull up an image real quick. I think they're called Shaft. King. Yep, they're called Shaft. I'm getting the feeling they probably didn't show this version of these characters in the recent-ish anime. Okay, so there it is. Wait, excuse me. Let me try this again for the DX edit. Okay, so Chocolo's backstory is that he was in a gang, right? Now, I want you to consider what is the most racist possible depiction of a gang member. Like, I want you to close your eyes for just a few seconds and just imagine, like, just let your inner Klansman loose. Imagine you hired a uniquely artistic Klansman to draw a black person. Now, I want you to close your eyes, imagine that, and on the count of 3, I want you to open your eyes and tell me how close this was. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3. Alright, now is that, like, not the most racist depiction of a black person you've ever seen? So that's the gang he was in. So I don't know what to make of that. Well, yeah, I do. It's bad. Unfortunately, Joko is a character that I chuckle up as a character I actually quite like, and his later appearances do look better. That I think we will see in Shaman King Flowers, which is, I believe, a series that is relative to this stream about to air soon. I believe, or might have even just started airing, but I don't care about that. So it's a shame because I actually quite love Shaman King. I actually like Joko, but he's going in Candace's elites. He's not. I don't think he's very high because people like him as a character. There's something you can do there. You know what? Let's actually do this guy first before we do more good black people. Um, Dang, what's this guy's name again? Is it Ken? Hold on one sec. Okay. So next up we got Patrick Spencer. I was going to do the Bleach characters now, or the ones that I know of, but no, we're gonna do Patrick Spencer first. So Patrick Spencer is a nice dude in Ice Shield 21, another manga by Miura, who did the artwork for One Punch Man, or at least the Shonen Jump version of One Punch Man. To my understanding, Patrick is a pretty nice dude. He's a pretty good team player. He teams up with our boys on the Devil Bats against this guy. I think another football coach who's like deeply racist against black people for being too good at football and Asians for not being good enough at football. So on one hand, I like the black Asian solidarity we got going on. I think given anime's proximity to hip hop, we should definitely have more of that. That's pretty good. I don't think we necessarily talk about the implicit implication that, a lot of these characters are likely Asian. We just don't really address that too often, weirdly. And we also don't necessarily look for that as points to rally around in terms of solidarity, etc. However, the characters kind of go, ooh, damn, we'll never be as strong as this guy. Black people are just biologically stronger and bigger and run faster, and that's just kind of the message. Well, the actual message is that even if black people are better than you at football, you should play anyway, which I guess, fair enough. I think the core conceit is what makes me cringe a little bit, so... Before, I think I would have put this in Candace's elite, but again, we are heavily curbing the grade here, so I think he's gonna go in LinkedIn mutuals on the grounds of identifying a mutual common enemy between black people and Asian people, because a lot of our issues do tend to be either very similar or very reversed, where black men are seen as like ultra machismo and ultra strong and ultra violent, while Asian men are seen as like the opposite of like ultra meek and very weak, etc. That kind of shit. Or black people incorrectly are just assumed to be stupid, while Asian people are like, oh, just assumed to be super intelligent, when that's not necessarily always the case. Not to imply they're like Asians are like dumb, but I mean in terms of not all stereotypes are good stereotypes. You know what I mean? Like stereotypes, even good ones, can be harmful, especially when you are facing some type of adversity. For example, not all black people are super physically fit. So that can be kind of difficult when talking to like doctors and they go, "Nah, dude, you're doing great," and you go, "Fuck, dude, I'm not." Sorry, my fucking life. Okay, that's enough suffering. Let's move on to Bleach, which I'll be real with you. I have read 100 chapters of Bleach exactly, maybe a little bit more. Approximately 100 chapters. Rukia is probably my favorite character, and it's not just because she's black. She just has a certain troll energy to her that I quite appreciate. A little bit of a trickster. Actually, let me there we go. Okay. That looks good. Compass is only ahead because I'm sexist in favor of women, I guess. Same is true here. That's why I'm just a coomer. Just a coomer. Yeah, so, did I call her Rukia? I didn't mean to. Hold on one sec. Okay, so let me try that again. So Yoruichi is really good. She's introduced during the Soul Society, which is generally understood to be the one of the better Bleach arcs. A lot of people say the best, but there has been some contingency around that to just saying one of the better ones. I'll accept that, Soul Society is, their Frieza or Water 7, I guess, and that's fine. She's a pretty fun character, super smart, cool ninja, great representation all around. A real shining fucking beacon on what a black character should be. She turns into a cat. That's pretty fun. Has big troll energy. She's also super hot too. I didn't mean to make it always about that. Sorry, I just haven't really been attracted to any of the guys here. Actually, that's not true. Tosen's a handsome fella too. I actually don't really know much about Tosen because I've only read part of Bleach, but he seems like for a long time I thought he was like an OC or something. But no, he's a cool blind samurai guy. Seems cool to me. I hope he doesn't suck. I wish I had more to say about Bleach, but I don't. So this is another example of, there are a lot more black characters in Bleach. I know that for certain, but I don't really know anything about them. So I don't want to just put them here and make up shit, but I do intend on putting more of them here when I, make this little tier list, public. Cool guy. And I think, again, a lot of this is that a lot of these series do take inspiration from other sources of media, so you're going to have a lot of black people in there, especially when you are concerned with the idea of something being cool, because while that may be an example of what's the word, positive stereotyping, sometimes that does basically do net good if everything around you is net bad. Like, sometimes it is just okay to have, like, the big cool samurai guy with dreadlocks, and then like, you put Wu-Tang Clan music over him, and I don't know, vaporwave in the background, and you play some I don't really know what music you played this guy, but some indie hip hop. This guy's pretty cool. All right, now on to the One Piece characters. This is another big block of them. Boy, there are a lot of black people in One Piece. Like, I know for a fact I don't have them all. And it's not like Dragon Ball Z, where half of them are, like, green guys, although some of them are. So first we got, Usopp. He's doing that marksman thing. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. His lips are not ideal. But Usopp is probably one of my favorite fictional characters, so, Usopp's doing that marksman thing. he is the dream. He's a light-skinned bro. He's a very cowardly guy. He's a very funny dude. He's kind of like the heart of the Straw Hats sometimes. In recent years, he hasn't really had much to do, but that's pretty much true of most of the Straw Hats besides Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. And sometimes for spans of exactly one chapter, Nico Robin. Usopp is pretty fun. He's a light-skinned guy. He was actually confirmed to be a black dude. His live-action adaptation has him played as, like, still another kind of funny-looking black guy. Like, they didn't quite get his nose, but I appreciate they got a kind of weird-looking, but still conventionally attractive fella to do that. That's pretty good. He's a big coward. He's a big liar. He snipes stuff, but he doesn't use a gun. He has a fun tokusatsu alter ego called the Soga King. He hasn't used that in literally over a decade, and it's probably never coming back, which is a shame, but I quite like that. He has his own little super duper power. He has observation hockey, which is pretty good for a sniper, meaning he can see your soul instead of looking with his eyeballs. Although he doesn't really do that much because he doesn't have much to do. And he can, I believe this is how it works. He can sometimes during the heat of battle see a split second into the future and can go, "Oh wait, no, I shouldn't do that. I should do this instead." Although I think that's only come up once. It's looking like, as we close in on the end of One Piece, or the last handful of longer story arcs, the next one will probably have his coming up, because initially starting out, Usopp was overtly a coward who always ran away. And he still does, but, he's a heroic guy now, but he still runs away. And his goal was to visit the land of giants, Elbaf, and be a true warrior of the sea. So I think you can argue that he's already a true warrior of the sea. He has the moniker God Usopp now, because he saved the gnomes one time, the race of gnomes from basically genocide. He saved the gnomes from genocide and is regarded as their deity now, and that earned him the moniker God Usopp. So now we have to deal with a seemingly innocuous character being occasionally called God. And that's pretty funny. So I love Usopp. He has pretty funny lips, and that's not ideal, but I think everything else about Usopp is actually pretty good. And then there's his dad, Yasopp. Yasopp is, I think it's going in LinkedIn Mutuals. It's not, like, his design is really good, but his actual character, he abandoned Usopp at a very young age to become a pirate, and he's had opportunities to go visit Usopp, like, he's on, the ship of red-haired Shanks. Yasopp has met Luffy as a child, and Luffy even knew who Usopp was by just going, "Oh, a big-nosed guy who always lies and, like, is a kind of smelly, weird guy? Oh, yeah, you're Yasopp's son, right?" And he goes, "Oh, shit, you've met my dad? Oh, yeah, I used to go, yeah, we go way back, we're really good friends." So he's had the opportunity to meet his son again on the sea, but just never has. Actually, I think for you anime watchers, this might even be recent. Like, this might have been, like, a couple of weeks ago. For me, it was, like, well over maybe a year plus ago, but for you anime heads, this was, like, recent, where he goes. Shanks and the boys are pulling up on a Wano and they go, "Hey, what if we saw what Luffy was up to?" And he goes, "Oh shit, I don't want to see my son." "Why don't you want to see your son? Take care of your goddamn son. You're really making us look bad." Another absentee father. The only reason why he's getting away is that he has sick dreads. Otherwise, he'd easily be in Candace's elites. But for now, I will quietly acknowledge you across the room. So I have a couple of merfolk in here. Fishmen, merfolk, I forget what they're called. Mostly because the fishmen in One Piece all seem to be black-coated. For better or ill. Mostly ill. Mostly ill. The first of which is Arlong. So Arlong is an early antagonist. I think this is before they really came down on the merfolks are black-coated thing yet. And Arlong's thing is that he used to be part of a group called the Sun Pirates. And the Sun Pirates are most comparable to maybe Malcolm X, where they're comfortable taking politically violent means as a form of fighting back against human supremacy, which is a real thing. However, when their leader, Fisher Tiger, passed away, instead of, like, fighting back against, like, human supremacy, by, like, making politically, sound moves, etc., Arlong and his boys, and some other characters that we're gonna get, and another character that we're gonna get to in a little bit, would instead basically take out their anger on the humans. So, like, imagine instead of let's protest these racist policies. Instead, I just go to the suburbs and just start hitting like random white women with like fence posts and shit. It's a really bad look. And it really undercuts a lot of, teachings about political violence, because a lot of the characters in One Piece are, pretty open to using political violence, and yet, we still call them good guys. Like Luffy, for example. He's a character that uses political violence pretty much nonstop, despite firmly being a good person and enjoying fighting and thinking fighting is really fun and cool. So I don't quite want to put him in Candace's elites, because luckily for us, he doesn't have brown skin. But it's well. No. Candace's elites is the kind of thing where you look at them and you go, "That's racist." But with Arlong, you have to have that explained to you. So I'm gonna put him. I'm gonna put him in LinkedIn mutuals, like, about here. And then there's Miss Monday, who just looks like a transphobic. I don't really have any. Nope. That's Pika. I want to keep him where he is. I think that's where Pika was introduced. Okay, yeah. So Miss Monday was a minor antagonist who was grabbed by the fucking noggin by Zoro, and it's just a big buff girl, and I think with some alterations and maybe being introduced in a slightly different way, she'd be a good character. But the way she is, it just kind of looks transphobic now. So she's going Candace's elites. This very much looks like a man in a dress posting right here. At least people liked Shokolove. Yeah, you're going there for transphobia. Sorry. There's Nojiko. Nojiko's a character that I actually didn't initially consider being black, but the live action version did cast her as black instead of a darker skinned Asian person, which I was expecting. So I guess when in doubt, I'll lean towards maybe being black. She's okay. I don't really have any strong feelings on Nojiko. We make brief eye contact in passing. She could be a lot of things, but I'm willing to roll on this one. Then there's Mr. One. Mr. One is another one of the Baroque works, which is a part of the same group that Miss Monday is in, where all the men are Mr. Number, and all the women are Miss Holiday. And then there's Mr. 3 Bun Clay, who is non-binary, so they have both the Mr. number and also the holiday name, or the day of the week name. That's pretty fun. Yeah, so then there's Mr. 1. Mr. 1 ate the I believe the slice fruit, or the dice fruit, where he's like a big light-skinned fella who can turn any part of his body into like a blade. So he takes out his hand and he, curls his hand up, and now it's a sick, blade. That's pretty cool. He is somewhere still in the world of One Piece. Like, he and Zoro have a fight, and Zoro learns how to cut steel, and that's pretty cool. And that was kind of the peak of Zoro's development right there. No offense to Zoro, he does a lot of other cool stuff, but once you learn how to cut a thing, you don't really learn how to cut it better, right? He's just a big, silent, strong guy. I don't really have much to say about him, so I guess he's going in like eye contact. He does kind of have like some big, strong black dude stuff going on that I don't think is ideal, but that is just what you get with this kind of stuff, right? And then there's damn, what's this guy's name? I know he's one of Enel's, or if you're an anime head, Ineru's enforcers. He's like a priest. He fights Chopper, and I think it's one of the last few interesting fights Chopper has, way back in the year of 2005. he's pretty dumb, I think. I don't have much to say about him, but he's not. I don't know. He's stupid. I think some of these One Piece characters are kind of gonna go down here because they just look stupid. Um, okay, that's enough out of that guy. I think no, but seriously, he was a priest guy who's really beating up our boy Chopper, who's a little reindeer guy, and then he's just bodying Chopper left and right, and manages to get himself stuck in a cloud. And I guess they're in the Sky Islands, and in the Sky Islands, clouds have the same properties as the ocean. What that means, I'm really not sure. Like, you can float on the cloud, I guess. But devil fruit users cannot swim in the ocean. So he gets stuck in a cloud and can't swim, and I think just fucking dies. So there we go. And then there's Aokiji. Aokiji is a Marine admiral, like one of the top boys, one of the big enforcers, right? And Aokiji is complicit in white supremacy. He is part of the system. I'm not joking. No, seriously. Let me start on that. So the government in One Piece is like, very. They are very ACAB. Like, they are the cops that are all bad. And one of these things is if you are someone who discovers too much about part of the history that they're trying to keep covered up, the government will send, I think, some number of dozens of battleships, along with their top dogs, the three admirals, to your island and do a genocide. I'm not joking. They will systemically wipe out every man, woman, and child that they find because you found out too much, and they got to make sure that none of that information gets out. And Aokiji, and these are called Buster Calls, and Aokiji is part of one of them, or Kuzan. Aokiji is his government name. That's my slave name. Okay. I'm gonna cut that out. I don't think that was funny. It was funny in my head, but my style of delivery just wasn't very funny for it. So that's Aokiji, and his thing is that while he is definitely a cop, and he is a big boss of cops, he's not an evil guy. Like, there are some instances of him having, direct orders to murder a person, and he just goes, man, I don't even want to do all that right now. Listen, you're gonna be good, right? Just be cool. Or, there was an instance where a good buddy of his had a kid on the island, and he said, you know what? This is pretty messed up. I'm just going to let you slide. You can just slide, right? Or, there was the iconic moment when he first appeared where he let the Straw Hats go just on strength of, hey, you guys seem like you're not evil people. I'll let you go. Aokiji follows the law of lazy justice, which means he's just going to let people go sometimes. However, eventually he teams up with, the next person here, Blackbeard, because towards the climax of the midpoint of One Piece, one of the major antagonists, who's one of the three admirals, basically seizes a void in power in like the next level up, which would be I believe the commander-in-chief of the Navy, and he takes that, and then Aokiji says, now hold on, dude, you fucking suck. Listen, we're fighting over this one. I can't just let you do that. Probably because, that guy, Akainu, is racist. He just seems like very racist. You look at him and you go, that guy is looking pretty racist. And they fight, and Aokiji loses, and he resigns from the military, or from the Navy. And for reasons that we don't know yet, maybe he's a sleeper agent, we don't know. He seems mysteriously a little bit more tolerant than other Navy guys. He becomes a pirate and drug dealer. Well, that doesn't sound good, because I'm going to give him a high rank. And teams up with my boy Blackbeard, which we'll talk about in just a second. So I actually like Kuzan. Kuzan seems like a character that does have a solid sense of what justice is, despite being a police officer. And even said, you know what? I don't think this is justice. I'm going to quit. So he's definitely at the cookouts, although I'm not thrilled with Black Cops, but I am thrilled with Black Cops drawing the line somewhere and quitting. That's great. I can, you can stop being a cop at any time. I cannot stop being black at any time. So there we go. And then there is Blackbeard. If you had asked me a year or two ago, I would have said the big main antagonist of One Piece, but that looks like it may no longer be the case, but he is still going to be a late game rival to Luffy. So Blackbeard is heavily inspired by Captain Silver from Treasure Island. No, not that one. The anime Treasure Island, specifically. Although he does take some inspiration from the actual man Blackbeard. The beard he has is actually recent. For a lot of the series, he couldn't really grow a beard, much like me. How relatable. There is some kind of funky stuff about his appearance, but to be honest with you, a lot of One Piece characters look like subhuman animals anyway. So, I don't really know exactly how many points to dink from Blackbeard. Blackbeard is probably still one of my favorite Jump villains because, he is the kind of character who would be in your face pretty often and taunting you. And I think Shonen Jump is missing a lot of that, that kind of character. But he's there, he's making fun of you. He's a very crafty individual. He does have some belief in destiny, but he also believes in carving his own path and just taking what you will. Unlike a lot of Jump characters, and this is actually a big reason why I like Blackbeard and why I mentioned the late 70s or early 80s Treasure Island anime. He actually quite likes Luffy. Now he is ready to kill Luffy, and he expects that he's going to have to. He's tried to capture Luffy on one or two different occasions, and just the cards didn't work out. He's kind of like Nega Dio, where for Dio and JoJo, and for a lot of JoJo villains, they just tend to be very, very lucky. And Blackbeard tends to be very unlucky, where he's not invincible. He has, fucked up stuff before. He's a pretty strong guy, but he's not this all-knowing, all-seeing guy. He's just a very crafty pirate who, uses his wits and, knowing a little bit too much about stuff to his advantage. So I actually quite like Blackbeard. He really appreciates Luffy and is pretty excited when he finds out that Luffy is pissed off the government and goes, I love to see young pirates following their dreams, even if I am going to have to kill them. I love freedom. I love, all that shit. And for a lot of series that follow a very individualized premise, kind of a genre fiction-y premise, it's easy to sort of get away from what your premise was. Look at all the characters we've talked about for One Piece. How many of them look like pirates? Basically none of them. Blackbeard is the most piratey pirate there is. He even has a pop-up a pop-up Pete character at his disposal. He lives on an island called I think right now it's called Full of Lead Island. But previously he was held up on an island called Treasure Island or Pirate Island or something like that. I don't know. It's just fun that the final boss of One Piece is probably going to be the actual pirate Blackbeard. So Blackbeard's really good. There's some weird stuff about his appearance, but I think he's part of the dream, and this is what any great One Piece or Shonen Jump villain should try to aspire to. And he's fun because he bumbles a lot, but he's also very dangerous. And then there is Brook. Brook, the Soul King. He is the musician for the Straw Hat Pirates. They have more than one black person on the crew. He's a skeleton, but when he was alive, he was black. He ate the he ate the revive fruit that lets him come back to life once. It does give him more powers, but that is the main thing that it does. And he's already used it, so I guess he's just alive now. Later on, he does get some cool soul powers and manipulating people's souls and shit, but he's a dead guy. He's a big pervert. He's a which is weird because he's very queer coded, but he's always like, "Ooh, can I see your panties, miss?" So that's Brooke, I guess. I didn't sell him very well, but I like the idea that the Straw Hats just do have a singing skeleton on the team, so that's pretty good. Perfect. Brooke, pretty good. There's more than one way to be black, and one of those ways is being a skeleton. We're doing pretty good. We got a lot of good characters here. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, then we have Bartholomew Kuma. So there's been some lore stuff about Kuma, that I'll like as we speak, like literally as of a few days in like the last ongoing weeks for like the manga. So I'm not gonna go too much into that, but I will touch down on the end results of it. So Kuma is part of a group called the Seven Warlords of the Sea, which are a bunch of pirateers, although there are very rarely actually seven of them, that are hired by the government to basically intimidate other pirates, and in exchange, their current bounty will be put on hold. Now, for reasons that we are just now sort of finding out about, at some point Kuma was turned into a cyborg called a pacifista, which is, just a mindless robot designed to follow orders and basically be an enforcer. Which, that would kind of sort of disqualify him from being a character. However, we do kind of find out that he is mild spoiled. I'm gonna keep it vague to where, if you're still reading and you're not caught up, this isn't gonna totally take away the surprise, but oh god, there we go. God, sorry y'all, my graphics card is fucking it's going out. It's not ugly. Or it's not pretty. It's on its last legs. So as it turned out, Kuma is actually part of a group called the Buccaneers, the sports team. It's not the sports team, but and that is a big reason why he is. Oh hey, now you can see I have the other thing open to make sure the screen or the stream looks right. That's a big reason why he's persecuted, right? And eventually, at some point, for reasons that I won't get into, he cooperates with the police, basically, to make this whole pacifista situation happen, where his body will be, cloned over and over to make thousands of, copies of him that will oppress the masses, for reasons that I will not tell you. I think that his characterization is good, but parts of it that I can't really get into puts him in LinkedIn mutuals because we politically disagree. Which is a shame because he used to be a cool anarchist, but then he sold out and became a lib. And then there are the treasure pirates from the OVA One Piece Heart of Gold. The treasure pirates are Mad Chains, Drunk Naomi, and Psycho P. They are incredibly racist, but I can't help but find myself very endeared to them. Mad Chains is, I think a rapper who loves big gold chains. I'm sorry, her name is Naomi Drunk, excuse me. Naomi Drunk is always drinking a 40. She has a lot of regular kind of One Piece design sensibilities going on, like the big titties, the hourglass design, like a big cape and a weapon, etc. But she has a fucking snapback on and like a big fur cape and the kind of obnoxious bedazzled situation going on. I don't know if that's ideal. And then there's Psycho P, who ate the color fruit because he loves graffiti. He has the big racist cartoon lips and also a big snapback. I think this is pretty offensive, but I can't help but find myself very endeared by these characters. I don't know exactly what it is about them that I like. There's something about them that's charming despite their racism. Maybe this is kind of like my aunt. having like, the sort of racist ceramic figures with like, the big black lips and shit. So I'm gonna put them in LinkedIn. They belong in Candace's elites. Actually, I'm just gonna put them in Candace's elites, but just know, based on appearance, I kind of want them at the cookout, but I think they make me look bad. I'm pretty sure they make me look bad, but I quite like them nonetheless. Okay, then there's Corbu. God, it hurts me that he's going in LinkedIn mutuals and like these other three losers aren't. Honestly, I just put him there because I just wanted to talk about him because I just like their design, despite it being pretty racist. Um, and then there's a wet-haired Corbu, I believe his name. Um, okay, we don't have that many more to go. Okay, so wet-haired Corbu ate the melt fruit or the slop fruit or the mud fruit. I don't know, a fruit that gives him mud powers basically. He kind of sucks. He's a very devious, not trustworthy guy. He's a little bit of a creep, and I don't know. He just weirds me the fuck out. But that's probably the artistic intent behind him. So, I really wish my screen didn't do that. Sorry, folks. So I think he's gonna go in LinkedIn mutuals. He kind of weirds me out. It's not great representation. It's pretty. I don't like him. And speaking of, introduced in the same arc is Hody Jones. So Hody is, and the Fishman Island arc is where we get a lot of the deep lore for, for the Fishmen, and you can actually see if you look closely that he has like a little tattoo of humans getting their heads cut off, and he is a good example of a character who is definitely using that his political group has the moral high ground as an excuse to escape accountability and just do violence, and that's bad. I think his understanding of racism is actually kind of offensive. Like, it really takes the idea of you can either do violent resistance or non-violent resistance when really they're just a diversity of tactics, and also violent resistance is morally bad. I don't know, it really muddies the water on politics in One Piece, I think, in a way that is or rather it makes things seem clear when they're super not. And he's just not a great piece of representative media. So he goes in LinkedIn mutuals. It's pretty bad, and also just a weaker One Piece villain. Like, he's really a fucking jobber, like, in context. And then there's Jinbei. I was actually not going to put Jinbei in here because he is the most recent addition and probably the final addition to the Straw Hat Pirates. Shortly after him joining the team, someone asked, hey, much like the other Straw Hats, if this character had a real-life ethnicity, what would they be? And Oda said, Jinbei would be Indian. And I was going to exclude him, based on that. But fishmen are all black-coded. So I guess, I guess here he is. So... Jinbei is pretty good. He's a wise guy who cares deeply about his friends and his social movement. He understands that he needs allies to reach his goals, but also that political violence is a necessary goal. While we should definitely aim for reducing the amount of political violence that we can, sometimes we do hit points where that becomes necessary. And an important part of that is making allies with younger people who are, a little bit more able and willing to, kind of put their necks out there in ways that old folks like Jinbei sort of can't. Well, Jinbei can because it's a fantasy series and he's still good at it, but he has limited ability to because he has other obligations. He's a caring guy. He's a very humble, very noble. While he does involve himself in some of the shadier parts of One Piece, it's very clear that he is always acting in the best interests of both humans and merfolk for a peaceful cooperation, and also understands that, much like MLK said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, or something like that. Which is basically what Jinbei believes. Like, he's sailing with a bunch of humans to fight other humans. Like, he understands that the world government is human supremacists, but also are no allies to most, humans. Maybe, they might arrest someone who, really sucks occasionally, and that's good, I guess. But for the most part, they do pretty bad stuff, and definitely love oppressing fishmen. Also, please note, in One Piece, fishman slavery is totally legal, so, I think. So, there he is. He's a political radical. Yeah, there we go. Sounds good. And there's Pika. Pika is a big stone guy. I don't have anything to say about him. He's one of Don Flamingo's goons, I guess. He's just another kind of jobber character who ate the stone fruit, which lets him absorb and melt into stone. He gets beat up by Zoro, which is the fate a lot of black characters in One Piece seem to share for some reason. He has a little voice despite being a big guy, so he's just like Mike Tyson. I don't like him very much. He seems not great, but I like his power. And I don't like how he's another black guy who gets his ass beat by Zoro. Not saying that I don't want Zoro to beat up black people, but I am saying that why does Zoro have to beat up all the black people? Give, like, what happened to black on black crime? There are like 3 black people on the Straw Hats. He's definitely going, here. No, he's going a little higher up because he didn't really do anything wrong. He didn't cooperate with the police. He's just a jobber. But he seems to be kind of a jerk, though. I feel like he would have some really conservative views. No, you know what? Yeah, LinkedIn Mutual seems pretty perfect because he does stand against the government, but in a way where I'm thinking he's gonna say something homophobic, too. And then there's Charlotte Smoothie. I'm not gonna. So she's like 8 feet. No, she's like 12 feet tall. And very strong, can beat you up, which is a rarity for women in Shonen Jump. I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember shit about Smoothie. I know she's a DLC character in Pirate Warrior, so she's probably pretty cool. So Big Mom is, so Charlotte Smoothie is one of the lieutenants of the Big Mom Pirates. And, the Big Mom Pirates are one of the strongest, pirate crews on the ocean. One of the 4 emperors, the Big 4. And Smoothie is one of the higher-ups, which, by proxy, probably makes her one of the strongest women in the series. That's pretty good. And not just in the series, but in the world of One Piece in general. I like that she's named Smoothie. That's fun. I'm just gonna arbitrarily, she can be at the cookout because she, I think all of them make pretty good food. And then there's King. Never saw Kisame as black. Interesting. We'll get to Kisame. we will get to Kisame, I promise. Some of these are going to be need explanations. Some of these I kind of know going in that I don't know how I feel about them being black. So then there's King. King is another One Piece D-Floor character who's sort of recent. Who we do see that he is in the position that he is in, specifically piracy, due to systemic oppression. So, and he does have much darker skin, although I'm not gonna show you what his face looks like. But he does belong to a specific ethnic group, of, dark skinned people. Oh, and he also fights Zoro, so that's how you know that he's black too. So he belongs at the cookout where we'll say mean things about our racist coworkers. And then there's Kaido. Okay, hear me out. Or rather, hear me out why Kaido is on the list. So Kaido is a big, darker skinned individual who seems to have dreadlocks. That sounds pretty black to me, but I don't think Kaido's black. But I have him here because I do respect the argument that he is a big old black dude with dreadlocks. I respect that a lot. So I think he's the top of not black but invited to the guy. Kaido is definitely invited to the cookout, by the way. And then there's Kaido's son, for us trans rights lads, son, Yamato, who if Kaido is black, then Yamato would also have to be black by being a biological child. That's the reason why Yamato is here, because, if Kaido might be black, that means Yamato is half black, maybe. Or some fraction. Now, if there's one thing that I feel very certain about, is Kaido black? I'm not sure. I lean towards no. He gives me more darker skinned Asian vibes, and maybe his hair is just kind of drawn like that as in a fun ribbony way, rather than dreadlocks. That is what my opinion is. I will not fight on it, but that's what my understanding is. If that is the case, for a split second, I thought about calling this lowest tier Good Afternoon, My Octoroon, in honor of shout-outs to the black people that don't look black, but definitely are. But you probably shouldn't say the N-word because you'd have to do a lot of explaining. So that's why Yamato's there. So Yamato, it's definitely invited to the cookout. Like, I'm actually going to be pretty hurt if Yamato does not come to the cookout. I'm going to be very let down. So please make sure Yamato shows up. Not just because I'm a Coomer for the king of the underarm side boob hour. And then there is another group, the Seraphim. How do I describe the Seraphim without super spoiling it for the anime people? I'm just gonna say, okay, anime people, I'm gonna try to say this as fast as I can, so just cover your fucking ears and just mute the video for about 30 seconds, okay? So I'm actually gonna just mute the video right now until I finish putting up where the ranking is. Just mute it right now. I'm gonna go fast, don't worry. Okay, so the Seraphim are the advanced versions of the Pacifistas, right? Where the Pacifistas seem to be, like, one of them was a real man, like, part organic, and the other ones are fully cybernetic. Where we are in One Piece right now, we are seeing the end results of the whole Pacifista situation, where the government has decided they have new, better Pacifistas that are clones of the Shichibukai, the seven warlords. They are clones of them that take the form of children, specifically because, I don't think we have a reason, but I imagine it's because they are clones, so they have to go through, being grown, I guess, in a pod, and also because when fighting them, you're going to think twice about laying your hands on a child, which does happen a lot during this arc. Individually, they don't really have much personality, but because they are sort of biological, they do follow some of the drive of, the person they were created with, like, the Hancock Seraphim, does love Luffy. The Mihawk Seraphim does have this serious scowling demeanor to it. But also they're all injected with DNA from our boy Jack. They've been injected with the black people DNA to make them stronger. So that's pretty odd, I guess. But I think that does make them count, and that does. They were whitewashed in the opening. Okay, I don't know if you've seen it. It's a pretty fucking banger of an opening. Go watch Us. Even if you don't like One Piece, it's a fucking banger. It looks really fun and cool. They were whitewashed, and at first I was mad, and I thought about it for 10 seconds, and it's probably because they said, I don't know if I want a race of black slave children in my anime. So I respect that a lot, but I think that's cowardice, but I respect it. So these children are Bebe's kids. You know what? I'm going to make eye contact with these black children when I walk into the room. There we go. Okay. So now we're back to suffering. I think we've had it too good for too long again. There's Sister Crone. I had another channel back in the day. If you search Sister Crone, you might even find the video where I asked, is Sister Crone racist? And the answer I came down on was, yeah, Sister Crone is pretty racist, but she's not like the worst character who's ever lived. And that is basically what I still believe to this day. I like Sister Crone as a character. I like her as a rival. She's one of my favorite Shonen Jump rivals, but holy shit, look at this. Ooh. Ooh. Oh no. Just saying I like Sister Crone, that makes me feel like the ancestors are gonna come back and just fucking choke slam me from the fucking grave. Take me 6 feet under. But really, I actually quite do like Sister Crone. Her appearance, easily the elite queen of Candace's finest. There is no question. But I think Promised Neverland was a series that was co-written and drawn by 2 different people, and I think that's what the dissident is. So as far as a character is concerned, there is some weird racist stuff there. And that specifically, she has like the maid outfit. She is a character meant for servitude. But also, as we go on in the series, it becomes more and more clear that she actually does have a lot of respect for the children that she is trying to murder, basically. And part of that is, because she's a super genius, she's a super gigabrain IQ lady. But just the role of humans, and I guess in her case, we can kind of take that as like the role of black women in this world. It's just not one of greatness. So even if her IQ is big enough to be the big chief running all this shit, she's just stuck in a stupid job of dumbass servitude where they're just looking at her to be like a big mean lady, I guess. And I think, well, not think, I know, that speaks to the lives of a lot of women in a lot of service or caring-based roles where, yeah, this motherfucker, given the right training, could probably be a really good rocket scientist or some shit. But no, she's getting paid to be a mean-ass motherfucker at like a DMV or something. So, it's really tragic because I like her character, but oh my god. Oh my god. Look at this. Ugh. And then there is Super Alloy Darkshine from One Punch Man. Be careful who you call scrawny in high school. Your best buddies. Super Alloy and it's like fucking Staff Officer Black said, where do you work out? Initially they stopped drawing him with like the big black people lips. But the damage is already done, and also, this part's important, he's actually not black. That's the worst part. Now that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but here is my best guess for why that is. So Yasuke, the black samurai guy, came to Japan as a slave, Nobunaga said, whoa, hold up, Frenchie. Leave that black guy here. Do you mean to tell me that there's a black man here? That there's a man who just is black? I don't believe you. And they try to scrub him off. They try to scrub the blackness off. Not joking. And they think, oh, this is Cope. This is Cap. It's not real. There's no such thing as a black man. Turns out he is black, and they tell their enemies after making him a samurai, "Oh yeah, well we got a dude made of fucking stone. Did you know that?" And they told other folks that, and that's pretty funny. It's like literally the 1600s, so I'll let them get away with that. And they've literally never seen a black person before, so again, I'll let them get away with it if you've never seen a black person. And I'm guessing maybe that's where some of the association with like a big black guy and being made of stone is. But there's also some unfortunate stuff around like black people being seen as receiving less pain, partially because of similar stereotypes where we're just seen as like naturally immune to shit, which we're not. Stab us will bleed too. Which leads to things like black people being not taken seriously in like medical situations when we say we're in great pain, which is still a thing to this day. Like there are still medical books that are pretty recent that say this, and that's pretty bad. Whew, okay, well that's enough suffering for a couple of minutes. Let's get to the one that I'm looking forward to. That was me humming the Yu-Gi-Oh song that plays in the anime. I just wanted to do that to remind myself that in the deluxe edit that I want to do that gag and add that in. Now we got to the Yu-Gi-Oh characters. So you notice already that a lot of these characters are kind of clumped up together in terms of like black people, I guess. And I think Yu-Gi-Oh has the highest density of like brown skinned characters all talking to each other without like a light skinned character in the scene. And most of this happens towards the end of the series. But due to those events, that does carry implications for characters that we do see early on. And Yu-Gi-Oh is a series about Egypt, so there we go. Okay, so up first is Atim, the spirit of the puzzle, the nameless pharaoh. You know him, you love him. Great guy. I kind of wonder why when he's a spirit guy is he not black, but he's great. I'd vote for him a third time. He's my king. I love Atim. I have questions why he murdered all those people at the beginning. I really don't have a reason for why that is the case. I kind of wish they went into a little bit more lore once we start learning about who Atim, the person, and not, Yugi's companion and unsure other half, sort of is. I kind of wish we got more about him being, like, the game master. Like, was he the game pharaoh? I'm kind of disappointed we didn't get that, but I get the feeling that is because Takahashi was literally in the hospital when writing the finale of Yu-Gi-Oh!, where we do see a lot more of these darker-skinned characters. Yeah, he's a great character. He's an all-time great jump hero. I wish he was, like, a little darker when, he's Ghost Yugi, but I will forgive that it wasn't really decided, what Atim would look like until much later, or if he just is Yugi, since that part also isn't really clear until we're like I think almost 40 chapters in. So I forgive it. I think he's an all-time great jump hero, and a great example of to be honest with you, queer black characters posed in a positive light. Now you may be thinking, oh, well, I don't think Atim is queer. Come on, look at him. It's gay. But it's also important to, I think, depict queer characters in a way that does not necessarily, not necessarily romantically. Like, hey, like, I'm single. Like, there's more ways to know about me being queer besides like saying, "Oh man, I love big wieners" or whatever. Handsome lads. Yeah, I like his more regal design. I still like that it's a little bit understated. I like that they actually had the balls to make all these, Arab characters. Well, hold on, I'll elaborate on that in a moment. Actually darker, and a piece of trivia that I encourage all of you to begin saying is that next time you see a movie about like ancient Egypt, and it's like all like white people, I want you to let people know that Yu-Gi-Oh has a much better and more realistic depiction of Egyptian people than that movie. Make sure you say that. I love saying that. When I used to work in a movie theater where we had a lot of Egyptian movies with guys played by white people, we'd say that all the time. So for a lot of these characters that are Egyptian, I think for ancient Egypt, I think that it's far enough removed from the schism between modern day black culture and modern day Arab culture, and I believe that line began around the time where there was more Islamic influence around the 7th century, the 7th and 8th century. So I feel comfortable with the sort of old-timey, ancient days of yore characters saying that they're black. So I have no issue listing Yami up there, or Atem, the Nameless Pharaoh. You love him. And then there's Shadi. So Shadi is actually a character that Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Yu-Gi-Oh! Media put so much mystery on, but apparently he was initially not very popular. I think the arc with Shadi initially, where in the manga anyway, Shadi shows up and challenges Yugi to a shadow game to see what his deal is, because something about this doesn't seem right. Why does this child have the Millennium Puzzle? That was Yugi almost got canceled, and Joey calls Shadi a slur. I can say this because it's not entirely in English. He calls him a turban yarrow, which is not great. I don't think that's a direct slur, but it is certainly derogatory. Yaro is it's a more general Japanese term, which refers to like a wild guy. Like if someone cuts you off in traffic and you almost get hit by a car, you get out of the car and you say, "You baka yaro." So when you add turban in front of that, that makes for a term that I am not super thrilled with, Jonoji. But we gotta cancel Joey. No, but seriously, I think in the Bunkoban version of Yu-Gi-Oh, like the really nice versions where Takahashi adds more afterward, he actually changes this to something less racist, and he actually does this to a handful of slurs that are used, or more derogatory terms, like I believe Pegasus, Bandit Keith calls F slur Yarrow, I think, or something like that. No, he calls him that's about right. Or he calls him like Okama Yaro or something like that, which is like, you crazy, F slur. It's a pretty good way to take that. Japanese is a little bit fuzzy when it comes to cursing, but I think that's the most direct understanding you can have of that. But that said, Shadi is a character that a lot of early Yu-Gi-Oh! Media, like games and stuff, would build up a lot of myth about him, but it wouldn't really go anywhere because Shadi is... I don't know. I feel like Shadi... No, wait. Shadi is more of a modern day character, so... he's going about here. If he says that he's black, I believe him, but okay. And then there's Thief King Bakura. So in Yu-Gi-Oh, there are the 7 Millennium items, and Bakura is the wielder of the Millennium Ring, and I guess he was reincarnated, I suppose, into a modern day boy who is a normal guy. He's just a regular guy who just has a fascination with the macabre. However, with this is Thief King Bakura, which is his the spirit of the Millennium Ring, who is a sadistic asshole who mostly just wants to get revenge on the Pharaoh for the creation of the Millennium items. Now, Yugi did not, or Tim did not create the Millennium items, but he does directly benefit for it. And the Millennium items were made in a to be fair, pretty bad way, where a whole village of people were ruthlessly slaughtered to create these weapons. So his justification is pretty reasonable, except for that it's aimed at the wrong person, who at this point is long dead. So he just wants to make the spirit of the Millennium Puzzle suffer, and along with that, the rest of the world, by doing, playing Dungeons and Dragons is what I'm trying to say. He does so by D&D. A lot of Yu-Gi-Oh villains early on had a kind of signature game, like a Kaiba would play Duel Monsters, and Bakura would play Dungeons and Dragons, I guess. There's a lot of cool stuff with him and his modern day non-black counterpart. But I like him as a villain. I don't think he's an all-time great. I honestly don't want him at the cookout. I think we would make brief eye contact, though. Because I do have some additional questions about his motivation. He does challenge Yugi and the boys to a game of Dungeons and Dragons. It's not D&D. It's called Monster World. Twice. Once early on, which kind of serves as a sort of, not climax, because that already happened, but finale to the first several arcs of Yu-Gi-Oh, and then again at the very end as again the climax, or well, the finale but not climax to other several arcs of Yu-Gi-Oh, where they enact a war, and the goal is not necessarily to win, but to find out what the spirit of the Pharaoh's true name is. And to do that, they gotta beat him at his own game, and it's pretty cool. And there's a fun game that I might stream one day, but maybe not, about it. Okay, so there are a lot of Egyptian Yu-Gi-Oh monsters, like a lot of them, but I'm gonna keep it to the magicians today. The Dark Magician can. Okay, hear me out. Just hear me out. Usually, it's definitely not considered black. Like, he's a pretty light-skinned purple guy. But a lot of his depictions show him with green skin. And I don't necessarily know if this is true, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very loosey-goosey with its depictions of Egyptian people. But sometimes the god Set is depicted with green skin. And I want to believe. I don't believe enough to put him in the dream. But also, because of some other deep lore that we'll get into later, the Dark Magician is the reincarnation of an Egyptian guy. So just keep that in mind. So I think the Dark Magician is going into brief eye contact. And the same is true for Magician of Black Chaos. It's also worth noting, I'm sure this is retcon. This is all retcon. Dark Magician. It's called the Black Magician in Japanese. And then there's Arcana's Dark Magician, who actually does have dark skin, so that's pretty good. He can come to the cookout, although he is evil. I don't want to bring these evil characters into the cookout. Captain Turtle says, "Great stream, keep it up. I love hearing you speak about these characters and how you elaborate on how they fare on the chart. I'll be going now. See you around." Alright, see you later, Captain Turtle. You can watch the VOD later and catch up some other day. Right on. I should have a little thing where, you see, people's words pop up. Sorry about that. I'm really bad at this. And then there is Yami Bakura. And no, I'm sorry, excuse me. There is Merrick and Yami Merrick, who frankly, I'm going to count them as the same character. I don't care what the lore is. So Merrick comes from a long line of tomb keepers, where they are supposed to be protecting the pharaoh's tomb. And the pharaoh has, been dead for a long time. Like, this is like modern day times. Like, these people are not allowed to go outside or experience the world and all that stuff. And also, he is a victim of, parental abuse. Like, he has this big old pharaoh tattoo forcibly tattooed on his back. He's beaten by his father, blah, 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 blah. And this sort of manifests as there's a certain darkness in his heart that begins to grow, that is sort of amplified by way of his Millennium item, the Millennium Rod, which allows him to mind control people. But more importantly to him right now is that it also has a little blade inside to stab people with, so I guess one day he just fucking loses it and just stabs up his dad, killing the man. And that's bad. But Merrick is a victim of circumstance, right? And not being able to take care of himself. And, not really having access to, really being loved or having mental health. Like, there are other people in his life that care about him, like, his two siblings, Odion and, Shizu, but they can't really do anything, and, in this context, so, the fucking stress gets to him and makes his psyche literally snap in half, where there's one part of Merrick's heart that, is a pretty nice guy that just wants to go out and experience the world, he does sort of commonly, not always, fight with some level of honor. And that does tend to be a big thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that, a lot of characters, especially in the midsection, will go, I don't know how evil that guy is, because he does seem to be showing a little bit more respect for me right now. So I'm not really sold on how bad this person could be. While the dark side of his heart is, this twisted, murderous rampager guy that eventually is able to, split off and become its own entity while still sharing the same body. Which is distinct from, Yugi and Bakura, who are both just two guys in the same body. So there we go. They're both pretty good. I think they should have did more with these two characters are both the same person and share the same goals. Because they do share the same goals. Like, regular Merrick did earnestly want to get revenge on the Pharaoh now that he knows that he's just out and about, and he starts up the organization, the Ghouls, that normally do stuff like rig games and, make fake counterfeit cards, but said, well, I guess with the Pharaoh's out there, we're fucking coming for him. So I quite like Merrick, but I don't like the way his sort of plot wraps up and he's not really held accountable for his actions, because they just say he's two guys. So all that to say, he does go in the not black, or rather, he could be, but I think for modern day Egyptians, I don't think it's my place to say. The same is kind of true of his adopted brother Odion, who by blood is not a tomb keeper, but is, out of loyalty to the family that, took him in because he knows they didn't have to. They could have just let him die. He has pledged his loyalty to do everything he can to be just like his tomb keeper siblings, and his father does not accept this whatsoever. Odion tries to be the best big brother to Merrick that he could be, and the best, brother to Ishizu that he can be, and he was punished for it, punished very hard. by the father, and he tries his best to keep the darker side of Merrick's heart in check, because he does earnestly act like an older brother, but an older brother who takes orders from the younger one, because he says, hey, you know what? I am not a true Ishtar. So it is my role to make sure that the Ishtars are doing their thing to the best of their abilities. So he follows, Merrick's orders, I guess. It is a lot when he gets really injured and almost dies, and then that kind of makes, Merrick's heart shatter, and then the evil part truly takes over instead of just kind of chiming in when, things get really crazy. But I actually quite like Odeon, and he's another character where he tries to pretend to be Merrick because Yugi and the boys don't know what Merrick looks like, so he says, oh yeah, dude, you guys just are looking for an Egyptian guy, so, oh yeah, man, I'm totally Merrick, that's me. But then Joey and the others kind of key in on, hey, wait a minute, this is another guy who's fighting with too much honor. He's too respectful, he doesn't talk shit. He seems pretty respectful with me as an enemy. I don't think this guy's Merrick. And that is true. So, both for Merrick and Odeon, if they were black, they would definitely be at the cookout. Maybe even the dream. But again, I will leave that to them. I'm a little bit wanting to put Odeon in the dream because he does look a little bit more black because he's bald, but whatever. And it's also worth noting that Merrick can be understood as Malik or Malik, which is an actual name that is common to both Arab and black people. And Odeon, in Japanese, his name is Rashid. So, Malik and Rashid. Actually, I'm sorry, folks. I'm shit posting today, so I think I'm gonna put them both in cookout. On the strength of their names being Malik and Rashid, and also I'm kind of shit posting right now. Okay, and then there is the middleest sibling, but oldest by blood, Ishizu, or Isis, as she's sometimes called in the Japanese version and early American media, like the games. She doesn't really talk to Yugi and the boys that much. She mostly talks to Kaiba a lot. And she mostly deals cryptic warnings and lets the boys know what's going on. And she's another character that I like, but I kind of wish she had a little bit more screen time. She is another character who tries to keep her brother's evil part in check, but is a little bit more less respectful to their role as tomb keepers, and that's probably in part because she's a woman and understands that women have it rougher, so maybe we shouldn't be so trusting of authority figures, so she might be a little bit more willing to realize that her dad's shit is bad, and maybe Odeon should not just be enabling Merrick to do bad stuff all the time, and should take accountability to actually trying to stop him. But I don't know if there's a little bit of fear in the two of them over Merrick's more brutal half. Because, evil Merrick, he'll just stab you up. He'll just poke you up. He doesn't feel the need to wait for a fucking shadow game. Although he does do that a lot. He just wants to do the shadow game because it hurts more. Note, in the Japanese version, he does not necessarily want the Millennium Puzzle. He just wants revenge. And, best way to do that is a shadow game. So there we go. She's pretty good. She's not as good. So, she's definitely closer to a brief eye contact. But serves as a really good foil to Kaiba, I think. So, I quite like her, too. And then there is, Anubis, which is a villain from the American-made, Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie, Pyramid of Light. Well, damn, I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember what his thing is, so I just put him here because I thought of it 5 minutes before the stream started. I don't know. He's a big naked guy, I think. He turns into a big dog. He beats up Kaiba, that's pretty funny. Maybe I should have Googled what his thing was beforehand. I know he's one of those early Yu-Gi-Oh characters where this was before we kind of knew that Yu-Gi-Oh had a final boss, and because of all the filler arc added to Yu-Gi-Oh, it's not clear that the overarching story is to get Yugi to Egypt and figure out, his true identity. So 4Kids probably said, well, let's just make up our own backstory for Yugi, because there's like 30 to 50 plus episodes of content before we get to that. So there we go. Okay. Thank God. Okay, we don't have that many more. My voice is killing me. Okay, so then we start getting into the ancient Egyptian characters that, I think we put them up here for a little bit. I think I'm going to move them back down here, because it's just not my place to... Which you may be thinking, wow, how woke of you. I don't think that's necessary. And you're not wrong. I don't think any Arab people are up here like, what the you're the racist. I think they'll understand. I'm more than willing to share custody on all these characters. I promise. You too, Asian people. If you feel like that character's Asian, we can share custody. And then there is Priest Seto. So this is Seto Kaiba's past life incarnation, who, unlike early Yu-Gi-Oh media would depict, as actually a pretty solid friend to the Pharaoh. And he has his own pretty fun backstory, and his own little girlfriend, who is white and has blue eyes. Initially, he was going to have a bigger conflict with the Pharaoh, but Suzuki Takahashi went to the fucking hospital and had to cut that arc short, so instead he becomes the Magus of Black Illusions, and in the modern day, that was interpreted as the Dark Magician. So, there we go. And now you know the full lore. At some point, he almost dies and turns himself into the Magician of Black Illusion, I believe. Or, the Ebon Illusion. I don't know. It was something like that. It was some bootleg Dark Magician name. This stream is... my good friend SPD has said, this stream has taught me a lot about quite a few Shonen Jump characters. Yeah, when I say, hey, we're gonna do the Black Shonen Jump characters, you just think it's all going to be, like, Popos and, and fucking Chocoloves, like, the whole way. Like, you think that's gonna be 90% of them. And that's what I thought, too. And I am biased because, the bad ones are either so bad that I have to remember, or, the good ones, the good ones where, they're pretty good, and I remember them. So, it's one of those two. Cool, the display name is delayed. I just want to show support. You can ignore this one. Oh, yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming out and supporting. Hey, if you really want to learn more, the VOD will be up. I'll upload a better, nicer version with funny meme graphics in there some other day. I guess the display name does usually take like a couple of hours to change, so there we go. There we go, Priest Seto. He can definitely come to the cookout. It's pretty good. And then there's... Oh, wait. Well, yeah, no, he's an ancient Egyptian. So, ancient Egyptians, I can rank them. Current day Egyptians, I'll give them a rank, but I'll officially leave them unranked. Mana is a friend. She's a girl character in Shonen Jump, I guess. That's her. Did Akagi from Slam Dunk make it on the list? Ooh, I fucked up. Ooh, I goofed up. I don't know anything about Akagi from Slam Dunk, I'm not gonna lie. My giant blind spot is sports. I have no idea. I get the feeling that there are a shit ton of pretty solid black characters in sports, because if you care that much about basketball, you're probably going to have some pretty nice things to say about black people. Akagi Slam Dunk. Let me just see if I can slap Akagi from Slam Dunk in here real quick. I didn't know he was a black dude. I didn't know Slam Dunk had any black dudes. Okay, this guy's definitely... Oh shit, my computer froze. No. Okay, Akagi's definitely, this guy's pretty good. Damn, this guy's really good. Thank you for chiming in. All right, okay, we have a new challenger, Akagi from Slam Dunk. I didn't know he was a black dude. It's pretty good. We got to get him in here. He's going pretty high up though. That's probably what I get. I assume he's a mixed race cat. That's what I assume. I gotta hurry up and get him in here. Wait, no. If I try to get him in here, okay, we're gonna risk it. No, we're not gonna risk it. We're not gonna risk it because if I go to add him, I don't know if it's gonna show you all my personal folders. So I'm not going to. But Akagi from Slam Dunk, he's definitely going in the dream probably. We gotta have our mixed race cats, who we love. Spoilers, but he's Shohoku, the main team, center, and ridiculously strong guy and amazing student. Excellent. Yeah, he's going in the dream, premium version of this, the dream. Excellent. Thank you. I have a big blind spot. In hindsight, I probably should have said, "Hey, list the characters," but I forgot. Ori, Mana, Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, she's a Shonen Jump girl. She doesn't really... She's cool. I like her. She's a positive influence, I guess. She's okay. They can't all be great. Speaking of, then there's a Bobasa. And Shoddy again, because I couldn't figure out how to not get him. I accidentally downloaded him twice. Oh, okay. Sorry, I got a weird text I should probably look at. Oh, he's also based on Patrick Ewing. I didn't know that. Now I know. Huh, thank you. Is this the last of Candace's finest? I think this might be the last of Candace's finest. So there's Bobasa. Bobasa is a character who only appears like once. He has a big... So he's the spirit of that big stone that you see all the time in Yu-Gi-Oh! That tells you what all the lore is, and they all scratch their chin saying, why is the blue-eyes white dragon in this big rock? Why is the dark magician here? There's a picture of Kaiba. He's the ghost of that rock. He's a little offensive, he's not the worst, but I think he definitely does belong in, like, the finest. Like, if Mr. Popo was, like... This is like Mr. Popo after going to the gym, I guess. Where, like, someone said, listen, Popo, you're too racist, you gotta tone it down. And he tones it down, but it's still pretty racist. Actually, no, he shouldn't even be here, because these are characters I like. Let me take a moment to organize these characters by how much I like them, real quick. Okay, kind of like him. He's a funny guy, at least. Sunbo, then... Naomi. There we go. Popo creeps me out. I don't think he's a bad character. There we go. Okay, we'll come back and do the rest of them later, but that circles out the lowest ranks. And then Shadi's here again, so let's put him right here, I guess. Then there's Canary from Hunter x Hunter. Canary, pretty good. Canary is Kurapika's one of Kurapika's bodyguards. She did not always look this cool. She looked pretty not ideal in other versions of Hunter x Hunter. Pretty bad actually. Maybe I'll edit that in. In fact, actually, I'm not doing this right now. Let's take a look at this. Ooh. Uh-oh. Oh, God. I don't know what to think about that. Okay, well, that's enough of that. Canary's pretty good, though. Like, as she is in her 2011 incarnation. In her 2011 incarnation seems to be an all-time great. Probably one of the most beloved black characters in, like, Shonen Jump Twitter discourse, I guess. And, like, a lot of cosplayer discourse because there are black people that just kind of look like this. And a really common target for cosplay because this isn't really a super difficult costume to do. If you're black and you care a lot about cosplay, then, you know, this is a very easy but also iconic character to do. If your hair isn't necessarily in any particular style right now. So pretty good stuff. Okay, so I gave myself a little break from talking about all the Yu-Gi-Oh characters, so let's talk about more Yu-Gi-Oh characters. There's Axel Brody. He gets brief eye contact. He likes guns a little too much. So Axel Brody is an American duelist who, in the anime, is a pretty nice guy. In the manga, he's a minor villain. I guess he is a kind of hot-blooded fella. His appearance is it's somewhat stereotypical, but it does feel sort of classy. I feel like someone wanted to do something more because he has all this like faux Egyptian stuff on him. But maybe they decided against it at the last second. But I like him as a character. I'm not in love with him, but the way in which he's stereotypical does seem to be genuinely, pretty classy. Like, this makes sense. Like, he does have big lips, but they're not like, big popo donut, fucking pink donut lips, That just feels like, an honest representation of what a black person looks like in an anime and has some kind of, gold shit going on. And then there's Tyranno Hasselberry. I've got Dino DNA. Also known as Tyranno Kenzan. I think he's half black, I think. He's a second year character in Duel Academy. He does not appear in the manga. I just put him there because I fear if I put Axel there, then I guess I should put Tyranno Kenzan in there too. He turns into a dinosaur. He's a hot-blooded guy. He uses a bunch of like army motifs. He sort of acts similar to like Tristan in Duel Monsters, but he's hotter-blooded, and GX characters tend to actually duel, so they have a lot of big moments. I actually quite like him. He knows his role is to suck up to the hero, so he does. And that's okay. I don't think it's done like a racist way or anything. And then there's Tragodia. Tragodia is the main villain of the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX manga, not the anime. Never appears in any other form of media. However, he was for a while in the actual game a very good card. Tragodia is, I believe, another survivor of the village that was slaughtered to make the Millennium items. And unlike Bakura, who became who was just a man who was angry, I believe Tragodia was a astronomer who said, "Hey guys, I noticed you're." He was like a royal astronomer who said, "Hey, I noticed it looks like you're about to kill a lot of people. A lot of my family lives there. Could you guys not do that?" And I believe he was executed instantly. I think that's his backstory. And he was so angry, he became a demon tree spider. And his soul would not rest And he would then possess a man whose name I forget, whose nickname, I'm not joking, is the D. Who is a dual monsters game designer in the modern day, and would use his evil powers to, and also his powers of astronomy, I guess, to make evil Yu-Gi-Oh cards called the Planet series. So they're all based on planets, including Pluto at the time. So like, the Supremacy Sun, Despair Pluto, which is apparently a really broken card in the actual game. The big Saturn, all sorts of stuff, and Jaden Yuki or Judai Yuki, his ace card, but only in the manga, Elemental Hero Terra Firma, or in the manga, or in Japanese version, I mean, excuse me. Let me try that one more time. And he would then use his evil magic powers, and also being an astronomer, to create a series of evil cards that he would use to take over the world somehow, called the, I think by Nuclear Armageddon. He would give them to American duelists, called the Planet series, and it will be all sorts of stuff like the Big Saturn, the Supremacy Sun, the Despair Venus, the Tyrant Neptune, like, that kind of stuff. And the ace card of our hero, Judai Yuki, or Jaden Yuki, Elemental Hero Terra Firma, or the Earth. And he's a little unimpressive, but he's pretty cool. He's a little bit of a Bakura at home, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Will use the plot of we gotta have a couple of these forbidden super duper cards, and there's a number of them, and it's always 3 that follow in the tradition of Slifer, Ra, and Obelisk. But no, this time it's just planets, and most of them are bad, but that's because the manga is greatly simplified. So there we go. He's okay, I guess. I don't know if I want a big demon spider at the cookout. He's not a great villain, and we don't see his actual body, so he's a LinkedIn mutual, I guess. Okay, and then we got the Naruto characters. I actually don't really know the Naruto characters that well. I'm gonna do Bubba last. So Kisame is a blue guy. I don't necessarily know if he's black. Sorry, Nomad World, if you were waiting on that one for a long time. I don't necessarily know if Kisame is black, but I do see him as an ethnic minority. And initially, a little spoiler for the end there, I was going to use Kisame as a stand-in for the Akatsuki as a whole. And then reveal that this whole time I've been wearing an Akatsuki jacket, which I am, but my camera didn't work, so that didn't work out, so he's just here, I guess, along with, black, he's just going to be a stand-in for all the sort of more monstrous characters in the Akatsuki, and sometimes, monster characters do tend to be black-coded, which I guess can have some interesting implications, but I'm okay with it, I guess. It's fine. One of them is literally called Black Zetsu, so this is that. Who I forgot to add here. Future me, add that in the premium, please, thank you. If I ever get around to it. I don't know when I'll get around to that. Kisame is a big fish man. Seems to be some type of ethnic minority, or at least I think so. I'm a little reluctant to put him in the black category, because there are actual black people, so I'm inclined to think that if he was black, they would have told us. But on the other hand, we never see what he looks like if he wasn't a shark man. And in good faith, given how often people will say, if they're maybe not black, then it's impossible, I will say, if he's maybe black, then what if he is? So, I gotta be the change I want to see. Kisame, bring the catfish. Bring the catfish, brother. I don't know if it's double racist if I tell Kisame to bring the catfish. I feel like Kisame is not actually a fish man, but he just kind of looks like that. Is that Is that the correct reading? Like, I read Naruto a couple of years ago, like in 2020 over COVID, but I really don't remember. I don't think he's an actual fish man. I think that's just a Keka Genkai, right? Um, okay, there's no joking around. I'm not even gonna bother fiddling around about this. Killer B is great. So Naruto is a character all about fatherhood, and how adults really fail you a lot of the time, especially for their boys. And Killer B is a good father and a character who is one of the few has a lot of really positive relationships throughout his life with his brother, with his family. He's a fun guy. He's an older adult man. He's not a kid. He serves as like uh, Naruto over the course of the series has a lot of different father figures. Where he starts with none. By the end, he has 8. But I think Killer B is the character that resonates with Naruto the most. Because both of them are like wild, loudmouth fucking idiots that have like kind of oddball hobbies. Like, I don't know, like Naruto does graffiti sometimes and loves ramen. Killer B he loves rapping, he loves poetry and shit. They both, love ninjutsu. They both have a tailed beast. Killer B kind of learned to accept his tailed beast, and they're actually, good buddies. And that lets him be a really great mentor figure to Naruto, who has a kind of rocky relationship with his own, tailed beast, etc. But they're two characters that, like, really vibe with each other and just kind of get it in a way that no one else really does. And I really like seeing that kind of, positive masculinity bonding between fellas, but in a way that isn't really toxic, and in a way that acknowledges that yes, there are other men out there that we can model ourselves on, but due to all of our individualized experience, there are some things that they're just not gonna get right, like Kakashi or Jiraiya, for example, don't know what it's like to have a giant demon living inside of you. Or Kakashi is smart. Naruto's stupid. He doesn't know how to relate to fucking Naruto, right? Same for like Iruka. Iruka is a pretty smart guy and a pretty balanced individual who has no issue kind of, learning to reconcile his emotions and etc. So, and Jiraiya is a guy who he's old enough to where sometimes I get the feeling that he forgot the struggle, but not my man Killer B. He's a fun character, and he's introduced at a point in the series where a lot of our cast have made a lot of really bad moves that, honestly, you kind of want to see him get punished for. And boy, does Killer B punish him for it. The Akatsuki are getting way too many wins. Fucking Killer B fucking shows the villains who's boss. Fucking Sasuke, our boy, is making too many willfully stupid moves. Killer B fucking punishes for it. Our man Naruto is hitting some rough times. Man, Killer B's got your back. So, Killer B, he's a really fun character when he raps. And it really feels like it's, respectful to the culture. And then there's his brother A, who mostly just serves as an accessory to B. Well, you can tell this, literally, his name is A. He's an old dude who tries to keep Killer B, kind of focused down. And I like the idea, with like a lot of Shonen Jump series, especially more modern ones, like post, let's say 1995. They begin skewing like significantly younger in terms of their heroes. So it is nice to see like that this whole hyperactive knucklehead. Ooh, my heart's aflame. Ooh, I have undiagnosed ADHD. That shit doesn't just go away when you turn 18. That's just who you are as a person. And I think A and B kind of exemplify this, where they're both old men. Like Killer B is like, I think, 38 and A is like 43, I think, or something like that. Like they're both, well, they're not that, well, see, I say old. I'm 30. I'm not 38 is not exactly like a long way away. I got buddies who are like almost 40 or are like 45 or whatever, and we're like we're the same age, dog. Which is basically true. But, the same dynamic of, being a hot-blooded, like, loudmouth knucklehead, that's just what you are, dude. And, the only change is you learn to live with it, and you learn to live your life in a way that makes that happen. And the same is true for the harsh brother who tries to keep you in check. So, he's just not as cool. He just doesn't have as many big moments. And then there is... I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember her name. She does not contribute a whole lot. Omoy and I think her name starts with S. Omoy and okay, so her name is Karui. I remember her. She was added exactly at a point in Naruto where I genuinely stopped remembering all the characters' names. She's a pretty late addition, as are all the Naruto black people. That's why there are not too many of them included. She is one of the ninjas from the village hidden in the clouds, I believe, Kimogakure. And I think she's on an assassination squad with Omoy to do something, and they take part in the Great Ninja War. So they're pretty much introduced like right as the final arc is sort of beginning to ramp up. And to be honest with you, I don't remember that much about either of them. I remember she was a little bit more no-nonsense, and Omoy was a little bit more of a slacker and a cynic. So they kind of bounce off of each other a lot. This is kind of a brother-sister duo. I don't have anything negative to say about them. They just kind of came in at a point in the series that felt a little bit late to add new characters, but that's okay. It's a 700 chapter series. They're not all going to be great, but I like them nonetheless. However, excuse me. What's her name? Karui is actually the mother of Chocho. Chocho is a character who appears in the final chapter of Naruto. And I guess Boruto, but I don't give a fuck about Boruto. As the child of Choji, the fat kid, and Karui. And Chocho is very adorable. So bring your kids to the cookout. They're adorable. I don't have anything else to say about Chocho besides she's adorable. This kind of reminds me in real life of like pretty fit, kind of alt looking like black women who are definitely big on like the heavy set chunky boys. So that's good. I like that, my man Choji got himself a baddie. Didn't let, being a big guy stop him. He didn't turn into a magically buff guy. They kind of draw to attention that, being heavy set is kind of genetic. Not always, but, sometimes it is, and it seems to be in this case. The last note about Chocho is that she has a super move from Boruto called Super Chocho Butterfly Mode, which is, I believe, Chocho Show. So that's pretty funny and not totally made up, because Choji also has a butterfly mode, which I believe is called Cho or Chojin Show or something like that. And then bringing up the rear for Naruto are just the Akatsuki conceptually, but not in the way that the Saiyans are. I'm just going to, listen, the fucking grip, the absolute tyrannical grip that the fucking Akatsuki cloud has on the black community cannot be understated, okay? All of us have some Akatsuki merch. You can buy everything black in Akatsuki. You can get Akatsuki hoodies, Akatsuki bombers, Akatsuki, I have an Akatsuki ashtray. I'm not joking, I have an Akatsuki ashtray. Every single streetwear brand that has some anime stuff has some Akatsuki merch. You can get Akatsuki socks. And I think a big reason for this is because it happens to be in the Supreme colors, and black people like Naruto. Um, damn, boys. So I think they represent the platonic ideal of, what if the villain was also the brand, because blackness is commonly villainized. I'm sure there's a bigger reason for this, but there we go. So let's begin putting these in a little bit more order. I kind of like these where they are, I guess. Where, let's actually put the Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters a little higher up. Try going back. There are two of them. Wait, did I leave a Shizu somewhere else? Where did I leave Shizu? There we go. Okay. I forgot she's not. Nope. Where's the Shizu? Where did I put her? There we go. Brief eye. Although I would make brief eye contact with the Shizu. Okay, let's. There we go. Okay, and we got the worst of the worst down there. The LinkedIn mutuals. This guy might post some radical stuff I don't like. Chircody, I don't. Pika, Yasop might be like a Facebook friend. I don't really know him. I think I added him in like high school or something. Kuma's a cop now. Corbu's weird. I probably added him in high school too. High school and Rogodia. This guy's actually pretty nice. He's actually a nice guy. Let's see. Brief eye contact. I would make eye contact with a dark magician. It's fine. Magician of Black Chaos. That guy. Smokey. There we go. Nojiko, I'm a boomer. Mr. One. Maybe. I'm curious what Mr. One would say about trans rights, actually. Okay, don't worry. We're almost done. We'll try to get you out within the next 10 minutes. Don't worry. Let's get the cookout. I'm saving Bobobo for last, so you don't leave me. Okay, these are actually fine as is. I think Brooke is probably a little farther down. The Eraser didn't do much. He's pretty good though. Trans rights do get you a big pass. Okay. And all of you kind of are in the same sort. Yeah, all the at the cookout people are kind of in the same kind of position, I guess. Okay, and finally, Bobobo. I considered for a moment. No, that's okay. I'm not gonna even bother going there. So Bobobo, the only black person to talk to another black person from Shonen Jump. That time where he uses Fist of the Nose Hair, Slifer the Sky Dragon. That was pretty good. I believe one of the last fighters of the Wigan Empire, I believe. I'm not gonna lie, I remember quite liking the anime Bobobo, but I feel like now it has like a little too many cutaway gags for my taste, but I appreciate what Bobobo is, and I kind of like that it is a sort of sillier Hokuto no Ken, just a North Star parody. He even uses Hagane no Shinken, I think. Actually, no, let me just look up what Fist of the Nose Hair is called. Fist of the Nose Hair. Yeah, okay, it's called Shinken. It's pretty good. I quite like Bobobo. I think Bobobo is a dream. There's a lot of ways you can be silly and black at the same time. He's a big tough guy, and but not really. He's actually a very silly individual that has all sorts of funny special moves. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I think. Oh, he also stands up for hair. That's pretty good. I feel like a modern day Bobobo would have like some funny commentary on like black hair maintenance or something. Like he gets his power from like shea butter or peppermint oil. That'd be pretty funny if he uses jojoba oil on his fucking nose hair. That'd be perfect. Okay, well, we did it. This is what Martin Luther King would have wanted me to do with today, is ranking all the Shonen Jump characters. So at the top is the Akatsuki conceptually. Actually, the whole first row of the Dream characters. Actually, who can come down a little? I think who can come down one? No, the Akatsuki can. Okay, that was for a bit. Piccolo has to go higher, right? And one of them has to come down for. Canary was not always this big. I showed you other Canary, right? Okay, that's it. The whole top row are tied for first place, and Mr. Popo's dead last, surprising no one. Along with the other racist gang, the treasure pirates are haha funny meme boys. Oh, oops. There we go. Okay, top is out of frame. Sorry about that. All right. There we go. Okay, we did it. The whole top row. They're all in first place. It's a big tie. The losers are all big lip characters. And also transphobia. Surprising literally no one. Also, there is some transphobia afoot. Not necessarily directly. I don't think there's anything directly stated about Miss Monday or Sister Crone being trans, but it does rub me the wrong way. It does feel like, oh, Min and Jess is posting, and that's no good. So you gotta go. Actually, there's nothing transphobic about Mr. Popo, actually. He's an equally opportunist offensive to the human race, I think. If you're a human, you should be offended by Mr. Popo. There we go. With the Yu-Gi-Oh gang, Kaido, Yamato, Dio's goons, and Saiyans being various flavors of modern-day Arabs who have their own agency in picking if they're going to have black as a moniker or not. Or I just don't think are necessarily black. All right. Well, we did it. If you tuned in, you are not racist. So that's good. Congratulations. And if you had to dip out, no problem. If you like this, I'm probably gonna do like the most racist Jump characters next month. Probably that's probably gonna be significantly funnier, where I'm going to be making up way more stuff. So I hope we all had fun. Thumbs up the stream and all that good shit. And I will see you in the future when I upload a video, probably next month. My computer froze, but you can go now. I'm going to stop the stream now.